Richard Fortnite Blevins. So yeah, without any further ado, let me lower the Sangi. We don't need the Sangi quite so big right now. Troll looking motherfucker.png. We don't need that to be quite so big. You know what, actually? Let's make him right about to scale with the trash man there. And then we just, there you go. That's perfect. All right, yeah, let's get into this. This video is 2.5 hours. So buckle the fuck up, Homestuck. You can't see that. We gotta move Rich down, but 2.5 hours. I have now seen this video twice. So yeah, I have been exposed to way too much of this. It's a testament to how I'm not even gonna use another word. It's a testament to how the Smash Brothers community is. That this video has as many likes as it even has. As far as I can tell, there's there's a little bit of legitimate criticism of this Leffen fella, but a whole lot of it is sure layered in, literally comparing him to anime characters and Stalin. So, you know, yeah, let's get into it. Intercept propaganda that's slated to broadcast this week. The last thing the Smash scene needs is propaganda that will send it further down the path to dystopia. Hopefully this video is able to reverse the scene's current trajectory. Well, I don't know if you did that, necessarily. I don't really know if Smash Brothers is headed towards a dystopia, like you say. But, yeah, I don't know if this video did anything but make more people laugh at the Smash community. Let's get on with it, fella. What's in the box? There's a PDF version of the video, which is slightly different. This is a dark video that contains unpleasant information, yes. This is a dark video, guys.
Hey everyone, it's Hacks. Today, I'm going to tell you some dark secrets about the Melee community, because I think it's about time for people to hear them.
Only I know the secrets.
Today's video is not going to be addressed toward just the Melee community, but rather the esports community as a whole. That's because I value a safe future for everybody in esports, and I happen to know that the Melee community is currently engaging in a pattern of behavior that threatens not only itself, but the rest of the esports world as well. Unfortunately, I've watched my entire community be subjugated by this threat over the years, and it doesn't seem that anyone else sees what I see anymore.
Now, I don't know if you're already picking up on some of the, like, words that are being used. Subjugate, dark path. I almost opened this video, or this stream, with a song from Blind Guardian. That's how serious some of the language is. He talks about, like, being banished from the sanctuary. I was gonna play the fucking, the Blind Guardian song, but yeah. Very serious tone. And again, you know, a second reminder that this is a game with pokey floats. Let's continue.
If they do, then they're either too paralyzed with fear to make an impact, or they lack the platform to do so. At first, I didn't want to give the esports world the red pill on what was going on within the Melee community.
This man legitimately thought that he could make this video and use the phrase, use the sentence, I didn't want to be the one to give the esports world the red pill. And thought that he wouldn't be made fun of.
I saw that people were living happily in ignorance, and I didn't want to change that. But it seems that every year that goes by, the situation only gets worse. What drew the line for me was when I saw that the filmmaker Hbox recently announced that he'd be releasing an edited version of the metagame documentary, which is set to air this weekend. I'm eventually going to explain why it should actually be illegal for this documentary to air.
Illegal!
He needs to wake up to what's going on.
Wake up!
For those who don't know me, let me introduce myself and explain why you should trust this video. I've been in the Melee community for 16 years, having been—
For those who don't know me, I am not this guy, and he's talking about, presumably, me. Is this him? Is this Hacks here? It seems weird that, I guess he's on, oh, Yahoo Esports. Yeah, the big dick commentators of esports, sure, alright. It's just weird that he has this, like, image, this video of this random man talking about this other random man, I guess. I don't know, man. Listen, you're gonna learn quickly that I don't know much about esports, but I will tell you this. I've been getting into Tekken, and I'm pretty good with Lily. And, you know, sooner or later, I'm gonna start calling Smash a baby party game for casuals, so I'm like halfway there.
Top player for many of those years. Throughout my career, I've proved myself to not only be a top player, but also a top influencer for the community. Although I only have a moderate following, I've helped the Melee scene make technological...
This ridiculous fucking braille-looking ass controller. So this is the thing, this is his, like, biggest claim to fame, apparently, is this fucking nonsense controller that, I guess it's, like, ergonomic for Smash, but it looks like a Star Trek keyboard. Shut the fuck up, phone. It looks like a Star Trek keyboard. And I would love it if anybody here could tell me which button is up. Because I'm pretty sure you can't.
Progress in at least 5 major ways. The most notable thing I've done is create an ergonomic controller called the Hbox, which thousands of Melee players now use in order to avoid injuring their hands and wrists. But I've also done several other things. In 2017, I advocated for in-game software mods that gave quality of life improvements to GameCube controller users. These were adopted later that year. Then, in 2019, I explained why Melee needed an anti-stalling rule called the ledge grab limit. This rule set change was approved shortly.
This is like Smash Brothers list of like accomplishments is like you know you're on your deathbed and you think back to your life's work and you're like, man, I sure did get Employee of the Month at the car wash 3 times. Like, guys, I influence the community to have a limit on ledge grabs. Wow, incredible. You might as well be Sakurai yourself with that kind of resume. This is like when I was like 10 years ago or something, when I was still like semi-proud of the fact that I got that one of my insightful rage flame wars on the That Guy with the Glasses website is what caused them to remove comments from all of the videos. This is about on par with that, but yeah, go on. You know, you made this weirdo controller for even bigger jabronis than the type of people that play Smash on a GameCube controller, and you something ledge grab limits or something. Go on.
Shortly afterward as well. Later in 2019, I started hosting a weekly tournament series called Hax's Nightclub, which showed people that it was viable to play Melee on LCD monitors. Through the use of the latest technology,
might as well have cured
gave
brain
people a
cancer,
glimpse at what
honestly.
Melee might look like in the future. And finally, starting in 2020, I began making educational videos that taught people about intricate Melee mechanics. All my videos went into great detail about mechanics that people had never heard of before, and were fact-checked several times.
Mechanics like if you hit a guy with your sword, he'll get injured by the sword. Wow.
For accuracy. I recommend checking out those videos if you haven't already, because today's video will be somewhat similar. Something to know about all the innovations I just described is that they all went against the grain. These were all radical ideas at first, but I helped show that they were the right direction for the community to go in. Today's video will go against the grain as well. However, today's video will have to do with politics rather than technology. People may not realize this, but the Melee community's politics are in shambles right now. There's something
Melee community's politics. Now, if you do want to get really technical, you could maybe claim that, like, the Smash... Like, everything can be political if you want to, like, call it that. But, again, this is the game that has Pichu. Just keep this in mind while you're watching all of this, please.
Unthinkably evil going on right in front of our eyes.
Unthinkably evil.
And I have the evidence to prove it. Today's video will be tough to stomach, but the longer people remain ignorant, the worse the situation will get.
Yeah,
so we don't have a choice anymore. The most difficult part about this video will be accepting that the evil I'm referring to is being perpetrated by a community
here
leader.
It comes.
There's a quote that goes, "The greater..."
I don't know, chat. You know, I'm just gonna, you know, within the first 4 minutes of your video, you have a quote from Adolf Hitler. You know the man means business. I mean, you can say that much.
The crime perpetrated by the leadership, the less likely the people will ever believe their leader's capable of perpetrating such an event. That is, unfortunately, a Hitler quote, but it's one that's very applicable to the current situation. There's a community leader who has...
Now, I will say this. That is a quote that you could say is pretty much accurate, but there's probably other people that have said similar things so that you don't have to attribute the quote to Hitler, you know? I don't know. There's probably like some civil rights leader in the 60s who said something moderately similar to that, you know, you don't have to, it's fine, it's fine. It won't be the first mention of Hitler, it's fine.
This community to be filled with hatred, corruption, and greed, which are all things that the Smash community once didn't have. These things have become so normalized that the current generation of players doesn't even seem to realize what's going on, and that things weren't this way before. People are genuinely clueless that darkness has been cast over the entire Smash community, but hopefully this video will change that. Before I go any further, let me be clear about the magnitude of this video. This video is the final line of defense against someone who will continue to threaten the well-being of the Smash community.
The final line of defense. I'm just gonna warn you now, this is gonna be a stream where I start fading in a lot of boss fight music, and I think you can tell why.
As well as surrounding esports communities if he isn't stopped. The situation will endlessly get worse to the point that it'll become comparable to a reign of terror within esports.
A reign
I know
of
this to be
terror,
true based on
everybody.
3 factors. The first one is psychology. I've studied psychology extensively in order to bring you this video, and I know exactly what type of cloth this person is cut from.
He studied psychology extensively in order to bring us this video. In other words, he specifically went into psychology, like, study with the, like, confirmation bias or whatever of well, I gotta find the things that'll make, like, Leffen look bad. He goes into a lot of stuff about psychology in this video, and it's pretty fantastically stupid. It effectively amounts to, guys, I read some books, okay, I'm smart.
I'll be explaining what constitutes a supremely evil person, as well as how to spot one.
Supremely
I'll also be going
evil.
over proven strategies for manipulating people, especially large crowds of people, that have been used on several occasions. While it is bad that I'll be showing you how to manipulate people, it's worse for you not to know how the Smash community has repeatedly been manipulated.
Shitpost smiley face from Aiden Paladin. I'm sure she's gonna have a lot of fun with that one. the psychology section.
Finally, I'll be explaining how people with these personality traits view their so-called fans and supporters, and even some of the people who think that they're their friends. The next factor is history. I've been studying history so that I can show you that what is happening within the Smash community is one-to-one with what happened in societies that collapsed. We're setting ourselves up for a dystopia in more ways than people know, and an entire culture shift is going to be necessary to fix things. Finally, I'll piece everything together with classified information that nobody else has access to. Most importantly, you need to know the truth about Evidence.zip, which is a collection of documents that was put together 8 years ago. Evidence.zip is the red pill because it reveals an MO that hasn't changed, and has only evolved as time has gone on. The press has continuously lied to you about Evidence.zip, and so you'll need to drop everything you currently know about it. Evidence.zip will reveal that several events that have occurred in recent years were politically motivated in ways that the Smash community didn't realize. Politically
motivated, everybody. It's all politics. Evidence.zip appears to be on the level of, like, the Watergate of the Smash community.
And that there was an agenda in motion the entire time. I'll also be backing everything up with my own personal experiences. I've been withholding a ton of information for this inevitable moment, and it's time to release all of it. Something I want to apologize in advance for is the fact that I'm going to betray several people's trust in me in order to bring you the full truth today. Private information must be leaked in order to tell the full story, and so I'm sorry to everyone who that affects. One last thing I want to go over is why I believe this is a groundbreaking video.
Oh, it's absolutely groundbreaking, but not exactly in the way that you thought it would be.
This video is a case study for how a community can be uprooted without even realizing it. It will show how platforms such as Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube can be weaponized in the modern-day era of social media, and how laws should be implemented to ban certain strategies when it comes to these platforms.
Laws!
Similarly, this video will show how we, as a society, underestimate the impact of political and psychological crimes, and how we can't underestimate crimes that affect socioeconomics and people's mental health. It will also show how the esports universe provides the perfect platform for criminology, by constantly using the excuse that someone is a hero.
Well, yeah, it is the perfect platform for criminology if you're trying to fucking crack down on pedos, I guess.
They become able to exploit their community endlessly without ever being held accountable. All these things are injustices that call for reform. Most notably, this video calls for an entire community to undo its way of thinking. There's a cult of personality that needs to be broken up within the Smash community, and I have a feeling it will be after people find out what they become a part of. This is a story of political and psychological warfare that took place in front of your very eyes over the course of the past decade. As the only person in the entire world capable of telling you this story, I know that I have to, as it has the potential to change the timeline we live in. 2 years ago, ESAM emerged as a whistleblower who stated that he was tired of Leffen shaping the discourse wherever he went within the Smash community, and having people blindly follow him as well. ESAM's posts did incredibly well on Twitter and Reddit. They were clearly representative of something that lots of people had felt, but may not have had the platform or the courage to express.
The courage. Who would ever speak against Leffen? He is God. He is king and kingdom.
For those who don't know, ESAM is an Ultimate player with about 150,000 followers
ESAM is also evidently a Wojak meme in hipster glasses.
nowadays, making him a notable influencer.
With very
Meanwhile, Leffen is a
unfortunate
Melee player with about
facial hair.
300,000 followers, making him the current biggest influencer in the Smash community. Leffen's influence is the biggest when you consider not only his follower count, but also the credibility that's been assigned to him. It seems that whenever Leffen speaks, his opinions are regarded as factual, which is what led to ESAM's frustrations. Unfortunately, ESAM's feud with Leffen would eventually fizzle out. The two would become somewhat cordial with each other, and the concerns ESAM raised would be forgotten. This is standard when you look at how a lot of feuds with Leffen go. One day someone will be beefing with Leffen, and then a few months later they'll be subjugated by him. This leads to awkward relationships with Leffen that feel very forced. The reason this happens is because people eventually realize that beefing with Leffen will cause you to be at war for the rest of your life, and so they give up. Leffen then gets his way, and the cycle of abuse repeats itself. In ESAM's case, a whistleblower who raised very valid concerns was lost when he decided that he wasn't willing to keep going. Because time is running out for the Smash community, I'd like to reopen the case.
Guys, time is running out. There's only 2 more DLC characters left to be announced!
In this video, I'm going to explain to you why Leffen is a disease that can be expected to fully erode the Smash community as well as several other esports communities within the next 10 years. I say this as someone who has known Leffen for exactly 10 years and knows exactly how predictable his trajectory is in terms of both scope and malicious intent. The Smash community simply doesn't understand the crimes that Leffen has already gotten away with, and will continue to get away with if the status quo is upheld. If you've read up on why Leffen was banned back in 2013, then it should be obvious there's something fishy going on within the Smash community. When Armada issued Leffen...
Yeah, there's other reasons to think that there might be something fishy going on within the Smash community, but, go on. There's other reasons than just some posts he made on a forum fucking 10 years ago.
Leffen's ban back then, he described Leffen as a chronic liar with no credibility whatsoever, and he encouraged people to always assume that Leffen is lying when he speaks badly of other people. Yet, 6 years later, and Leffen was able to terrorize the Ultimate community with opinions that people treated as factual. In the Melee community, there's a similarly strange disconnect. On one hand, there's the widespread belief that Leffen is a former villain who emerged as a hero, yet on the other hand, Leffen has clearly instilled fear into the current generation of players. This fear is entirely warranted when you consider that Leffen randomly attacks people with small follower counts, even going as far as to ignore their requests to be left alone. There seems to be no one truly safe from Leffen's wrath anymore, and so it makes sense for people to be on their toes.
The wrath of Leffen, everybody. And again, this is, as far as he is probably concerned, and Leffen does seem like he's a little bit of a bitch boy as well, but, as far as he is concerned, he probably mostly just thinks of himself as a normal fucking guy. And, he tweets, like, his random fucking 3 a.m. thoughts like anybody else. And this guy is, like, fucking Pepe Sylvia corkboarding every tweet that this dude makes. It's... I don't know. I don't know how this is supposed to make him look worse than it makes the uploader of the video, but very, very cool. Chapter 1, Totalitarianism. Once again, this is the series. This whole thing revolves around the game with pokey floats. Can we get a picture of pokey floats? Jamie, pull that up. Hang on. Pokey floats. I need you all, because some of you probably don't know. Some of you don't know. You don't know. You think that this is just, a video about, like, some drama or whatever. But, no. This is the game with pokey floats. Chapter 1, Totalitarianism. Pokey floats. This is all I wanted you to know, is just pokey. This is like a weird mock-up. I don't know what... This isn't actually from Melee, but still. This is Chapter 1, Totalitarianism. Pokey floats. This is... Okay, let's continue.
There's only one type of society in which these disconnects exist, and that is a totalitarian society. Under totalitarianism, it may not be entirely clear whether those in charge are truthful.
Can somebody keep a count of every time he subtly or not so subtly compares Leffen to Hitler or other dictator? Because this is like the 3rd time already.
And heroic or not. This is because while they give their citizens a place to live, totalitarians deprive their citizens of basic rights by controlling the press, performing mass surveillance, and resorting to state terrorism, which is when the state attacks its own citizens in order to instill fear. The reality is that totalitarians are neither truthful nor heroic, but they make their citizens think they are in order to mobilize them. This is done through either manipulation or force. What totalitarians will commonly do is craft false hero narratives through the
Oh, I get it. Orange Man, bad.
vilification of others. They'll create a problem and then they'll solve it for you in order to create the illusion that they're heroic. This is why it's important to take a look at where someone's hero status came from, as it could very well be a facade. In Leffen's case, what you'll eventually find is that his hero status was entirely self-engineered. Everything Leffen is remembered as a hero for was a political heist in ways that people didn't consider. And his motive...
I can't do much more than just, stop the video occasionally and quote the things he says directly. Political heist. Did you listen to this before you uploaded it? I mean, clearly not, because of some of the stuff we get into later. But fuck, man. Political heist. You're talking about Smash Brothers. Jesus, go outside and touch grass!
Motivations are much darker than people realize. In general, people don't oscillate between being villainous and heroic in the real world, and if you ever see a disconnect like this one, then it probably means that you've been duped. What happened here is a villain realized that hero status would be beneficial, and so he made it his goal to obtain it. If you look at the current state of the Smash community, it is in line with the totalitarian regime, and that is entirely because of Leffen. It's obvious that Leffen wants full control over the community based on several of his tendencies. A dead giveaway of Leffen's intentions is the fact that he blocks anyone who disobeys him on Twitter, to the point that he probably has thousands of people blocked.
Okay, it's Twitter. Everybody blocks people. What are you talking about?
This strategy isn't being used by some random person either. It's being used by the person with the highest follower count in the community. When you
Someone in chat says this is the new Metal Gear Solid timeline. Yeah.
About how dangerous this strategy can become over time, it should actually be illegal, and I'll explain why.
It should be illegal to block people on Twitter. Well, go ahead, friend. Explain why.
The beauty of Twitter is that no matter how few followers you have, you can always make an impact. This is because when someone makes a bad tweet, you can always make a very visible reply to it, which is why you see low follower accounts ratioing high follower accounts all the time. When enough people...
I fucking hate this, science of Twitter shit where these people, analyze, this guy ratioed that guy! Fucking shut up.
Reply negatively to a tweet, the tweet can end up looking terrible. To the person with the high follower account...
That's right, being blocked on Twitter is literally 1984, chat member. You are not wrong. Not to spoil too much, but he does in fact use imagery from 1984 later in this argument, so...
People replying are like pests in this case. They're practically latching onto the tweet with a hook shot, and when enough of them do this, it can have a huge impact.
Guys, he latched on like Link and Zelda in the video game.
However, what the person with the high follower account can do in response is block every single person who dissents from their tweets. I call this strategy pest control. Over time, pest control has a damaging effect.
For mere insignificant insects like you will be dealt with, you will be sprayed and neutered.
Because of the way crowd psychology works. Let's say that there are 10 Leffen supporters and 10 Leffen dissenters to begin with. All 20 of these people have an equal right to free speech, and so Leffen's tweets are met with equal discourse on...
Yeah, actually, you kinda don't have an equal right to free speech, because you're on Twitter, and technically free speech doesn't, actually apply. It's a whole thing about how they're a company or whatever, so it's not a free public forum or whatever. I don't know, I can't explain it, but yeah, I don't know if free speech is really what... Try a different tactic, is all I'm saying. I don't know.
Both sides. As time goes on, Leffen makes it clear that he will block every single person he views as a pest. The first thing this does is it scatters the Leffen dissenters. They can no longer reply to Leffen's tweets, which causes them to lose their power in numbers.
Dissenters,
because the dissenters' personal profiles are powerless on their own, the supporters are now at an unfair advantage. At this point, the dissenters can choose to do one of three.
There are a lot of people in chat who are pointing out that this just basically sounds like a crazy person's ramblings, and it does seem a little more put together than that, but it's a very well-formatted crazy person's ramblings. I don't know. The ultimate takeaway in this stream is pretty much just get some help, dude. I don't know.
Things. The first thing they can do is keep tweeting on their personal profiles, which, like I just said, has no impact. This leads to the second thing they can do, which is give up and stop tweeting. It is highly likely for a dissenter to choose this option once they realize that they will most likely just get harassed if they keep tweeting from their personal profiles. Unfortunately, this leads to the third option. If a dissenter wants to remain involved in the conversation, then they only have one real option, and that is to turn to the dark side. By mutinying in
the dark side of the smash. Yes. The dark side, everybody. Again, pokey floats. Just keep it in mind.
The dissenter is
I'm gonna stop reminding everybody so much, but like, because I think you can all keep it in mind now, but good God.
Able to regain power in numbers and avoid social isolation. When you think about the effect pest control has on crowd psychology, it deserves to be illegal. It is a mass manipulation strategy that looks to encroach on people's free speech, and the only reason we didn't realize it earlier is because social media is still new to us. The reality is that
Stop comparing Donald Trump to fucking Leffen. Donald Trump is a politician and was the leader of the fucking free world. You cannot compare him to some random guy who wakes up and scratches his balls and plays fucking Melee, okay? You know, just because he's like a dickhead on Twitter or whatever. If Donald Trump blocks people on Twitter, it's a little bit weird because it's like, hey, you're the president. Maybe don't do that. But this is just some guy who fucking plays Smash. Why should he not be able to block people on Twitter? Kind of a bitch move, I don't know, but it's like, it's his fucking right to do it.
Performing pest control, someone with a large following can filter out anyone who disagrees with them and turn their social media account into a cult gathering. Pest control is nothing more than a censorship tool, and the fact that Leffen seems to have pioneered it speaks volumes. The next sign that Leffen wants control has to do with something called a preemptive defense. I'll eventually show you the article this excerpt comes from, but a preemptive defense is when someone goes out of their way to assure you that they're kind or trustworthy without any provocation from you whatsoever. Leffen happens to do this in his Twitch bio, where he states that he is honest to a fault. This is a preemptive defense that creates a false sense of trust between Leffen and his viewers, which he...
Not really. You can look at it as he says he's honest to a fault, so that means when he says dumb shit, it's just him being honest. But, you know, you can also take it as like a seventh dimensional chess move. Again, keep in mind, this is all centering on a man with an avatar that is Fox Pepe.
Can then exploit. Another troubling statement in Leffen's bio is that he won't hesitate to ban trolls or idiots, which is nothing more than a delusion. In Leffen's mind, a troll or
idiot... Oh yeah, did I miss the part where he says that he pioneered blocking people on Twitter? Yeah, so one thing about that, right, is like, have any of you people been on Twitter before? Have you ever been blocked by Hideki Kamiya? Or like William Shatner or something? If somebody's so prone to block people for no reason, then usually those people, it's like a badge of honor to be blocked by them. You're like, oh, what did you say to get banned, to get blocked by this guy? And then you're like, oh man, I called him a fucking, and you go off, and it's like, it forms its own like sub-community. It's counterculture of people that are like, I guess if you want to use such theatrical fucking terms, like the resistance to Leffen, or something like that. So I guess that's what the mutiny part is, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's just Twitter. Settle down. Just settle down.
It is anyone who disagrees with him, which isn't normally what makes someone a troll or an idiot. The worst part is that Leffen even goes as far as to make the people he views as pests fill out unbanned forms if they want to return to his sanctuary. By forcing people to display obedience, Leffen is able to corrode the minds of the masses even further. These types of crowd psychology tactics have a dangerous effect over time, and are responsible for the disconnect I showed you earlier. Over the course of a few years, it is possible for someone using these tactics to go from being a pathological liar to being widely considered trustworthy. In addition to manipulating large crowds, Leffen also hunts down anyone who disagrees with him on practically anything. He's known to quote retweet people with microscopic followings as to embarrass them, and pressure them to delete tweets that speak negatively of him. It is rumored that he even name searches himself in order to find these people. In 2016, Leffen showed how ridiculously far he was willing to go to censor people when a content creator named Magic Scrumpy made a video called Nerfing Fox. The video didn't even necessarily imply that Fox needed nerfs, it just explained what they would theoretically look like if they happened. When Leffen saw that Magic Scrumpy had even suggested that Leffen's melee character was overpowered, he immediately began tweeting and streaming to turn his fanbase against Magic Scrumpy. This led to long-lasting beef in which Leffen seemed to want to discredit Magic Scrumpy as a content creator entirely and push him out of the melee community. Yet another thing I've noticed about Leffen is his Discord screen name, which is 2 dashes. This gives him alphabetical priority over everyone else. In this private netplay server for...
I really like this part where he whines about this guy having his dashes in his name. Meanwhile, Hax is in his server, but okay.
For example, everyone uses their regular screen name, but Leffen uses a strategic one to make people aware that he's present. Similarly, if you've ever watched Summit's online Melee events, then you've probably noticed that Leffen is always commentating from a TV screen that is front and center. It seems that no matter where you go these days, Leffen is always watching, and everybody knows it.
He was right.
Yeah. Funny enough, yeah. I think the scariest thing was when I did the pivot forward smash, because like I immediately thought, oh no, Leffen's doing commentary. He's gonna get mad at me.
Finally, the premier Melee podcast is called the 6-4 Podcast, which is named after propaganda that Leffen has pushed onto the Melee community. He hosts this podcast alongside Mango and Zane, so you don't have much of a choice but to watch it if you want to hear what they have to say.
You don't have a choice,
going on in
guys!
the Melee community, and no one wants to talk about it. When you consider how ridiculous the lengths to which Leffen has gone to control community rhetoric are, it truly feels...
Guys, look. I don't know, man. I see it. I don't know. Am I the only one who sees it? I don't know.
Feels like a surveillance program. All of this happened gradually, but surely enough, it happened. The fact that not many people noticed it happening shouldn't surprise you either, when you consider that it's standard for totalitarianism to creep up on you. As the author Pat Miller explained in the book Willfully Ignorant, the best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms.
First they took my ability to tweet at Leffen, and then they took my entire freedom!
Being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. This quote describes exactly what happened to the Melee community. Aside from controlled rhetoric and surveillance, the status quo...
Guys, this man is quoting something by the name of the rape of the mind. The rape of the mind, ladies and gentlemen.
Is totalitarian in several other ways. The state terrorism I mentioned earlier serves a purpose, and that purpose is to instill fear in a population. As explained by an article titled The Manufacturing of Mass Psychosis, fear destabilizes a population and makes them easier to control. By instilling fear, the population is primed for the crime of menticide, which means the killing of the mind. The best way to do this is to use waves of terror, which is when periods of fear are staggered with periods of calm in order to keep people on their toes. The article also warns that never before in history has there existed such effective technology for
Yeah, sir, this is indeed a Wendy's.
Mass manipulation. Nowadays, social media allows people to quickly censor the flow of unwanted information. The same people who instilled fear can then offer a return to normalcy through a never-ending stream.
Someone in chat says, this ain't even about Smash anymore, what the fuck? This was never truly about Smash! This was about our rights as citizens! Free, sovereign citizens of the world! I'm just traveling.
Of propaganda. However, this comes at the expense of people's freedom. Once you realize that all the strategies I just listed are emanating from the same person, it becomes clear that a handbook is being followed. Leffen's inevitable
I don't know who this guy is, but I like the fact that he basically looks exactly like Game Dude.
Tendency to feud with people at random has given him a hostile aura that people tend to want to steer clear of. The same exact person then floods the community with censorship, propaganda, and surveillance that we've come to accept as the norm. This pattern of behavior has only ever meant one thing.
Hang on. I need to do this. Okay, guys. I mean, again, I see it. Like, if you don't see what he sees, clearly you're crazy, okay? It's right there. It's on the screen. This is real.
Historically, and none of it is a coincidence. Leffen gives off so many red flags that he's attempting totalitarianism that they're almost too easy to find. For example, one of his very first social media bios expressed genetic superiority, which is often a sign of a cruel and dehumanizing leader.
Guys, he made a joking fucking Twitter bio from 2014, that's how far back this goes, about how he's half Korean and half Swedish. and therefore he supports and endorses eugenics. I wish this was a joke. As one of the comments states, well, the worst thing Hacks has done is show major spoilers for Death Note. That's true. Oh god, there's a lot of good comments. We really do be living in a society. I don't know. I can't see the one. There was one comment that was really good. That's basically said this would be the greatest Smash video in the history of the world if it came out on April Fool's Day. But sadly it did not, and this isn't a joke.
For example is the fact that Leffen has no respect for authority. He has in fact looked to embarrass authority on several occasions, despite the fact that we wouldn't have a scene without them.
Welcome. Thank you, but I'm not happy until every aspect of godhood is like torn away and there's only one god, and that's me.
When interviewed in 2015, Leffen made it clear that he was intent on becoming the one true god of Melee, and that he wouldn't be satisfied until every aspect of godhood was torn to shreds. This made for great entertainment at the time, and so people didn't stop to consider the real meaning behind it. The biggest red flag of all, however, is something that no one would have ever guessed. Many studies have shown that one's personality can accurately be inferred from their social media avatar.
It's
if you think
happening!
about the process that goes into choosing
Oh,
an
it's
avatar,
time!
This is obviously true. People will often use avatars of anime characters that represent
If
their
you've
inner
seen
beliefs,
this, you
which
know
is
what's
why I need to
coming.
raise an issue with something. Why did Leffen used to use an avatar of Light Yagami from Death Note back in 2016? If you understand who Light Yagami is, then it makes all too much sense when you consider everything else that I've told you. Light is a brilliant
Just according to Keikaku Hacks, I planned it all along!
school student on the outside, but an infamous political criminal on the inside, whose goal is to become the god of the new world. He's able to remain undetected for many years by outwitting everyone in his way. Essentially, Death Note is the story of a totalitarian regime that ends up casting darkness over the entire planet. The story that's unraveling right before our very eyes is strikingly similar to Death Note. The Death Note is a book that can be used to issue death sentences simply by writing someone else's name down. Should this tool fall into the wrong hands, it would terrorize an entire society. The funny thing is, Leffen is basically trying to turn his phone into the Death Note. Through the use
Guys, Twitter is the real-life Death Note. Understand this. It's only getting worse as we continue.
of modern technology and a good understanding of crowd psychology, it's actually possible to create a Death Note nowadays, and people need to be wary of that.
No boundaries! No limits! Oh man, Star Wars Episode 10, The Dark Triad, that was the best one.
If you look at the avatars and professional photos that Leffen has used over the years, there's something in common with many of them. They're pitch black. Pitch black in terms of not only color, but tone as well. He has used avatars of demonic characters, and pictures of himself grinning deviously,
Reminder that this man's current avatar is Fox Pepe!
facing away from the camera while wearing a long black trench coat, being covered in shadows, etc. The Smash community lets Leffen play this off as though it's a villain persona, but what they fail to realize is that this all started long before Leffen was anyone relevant in the scene. Ever since Leffen's very first Smash Boards avatar, he has presented himself this way. You might be wondering why all of these troubling signs seem to be coming from the same person, so I'll give you the clinical explanation. In psychology, there is a concept called the Dark Triad that consists of three antisocial...
So now he's going to get into a bunch of fucking psychology jargon that he heard in like a Watch Mojo video or whatever. Let's get into it.
personality traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. These traits are strictly malevolent and can be thought of as the very definition of evil itself. They are what compel people to commit crimes, and they're bound to result in social distress and severe problems for an organization, especially if the Dark Triad is given a leadership position. This is because Dark Triads are ruthless manipulators who will claw their way to the top at anyone's expense. They're also interpersonally skilled, which means that while they themselves are cold, Dark Triads are good at understanding other people's emotions and thought processes. The next thing to know is that Leffen is technically not a Dark Triad.
Aiden Paladin just says, I am suffering. Yeah, I had a feeling you would have fun with this, like I said.
Triad, but a Dark
I'm
Tetrad.
sorry.
The Dark Tetrad is a slightly modified form of the Triad that doesn't get talked about as much. The difference is that it adds sadism to the list. Sadism refers to the tendency to derive pleasure from inflicting pain, suffering, or humiliation onto others. Not all Dark Triads are sadists, but Leffen certainly is. This is obvious based on his fake yawns and patronizing pats on the back, as well as the way he
Guys, is this video worse than the Shane Dawson, Jake Paul video? Or like, I don't know, this feels worse.
conducts himself online on a regular basis. In 2012, Leffen openly confessed to sadism when he stated that he acts like a douche on the internet because he enjoys seeing other people rage, and that
In 2012, Leffen was like 16 and was an edgelord child. What? Why are you hearkening back to posts from 2012? Good lord.
doing so colors these empty words. So, how do I know that Leffen isn't just a sadist, but a Dark Triad as well? There are a lot of ways to tell. For one, the Dark Triad is the motivating factor behind the totalitarian behavior I described earlier. There's also the fact that studies have shown that trolling and debating issues when posting online signal not only sadism, but also the Dark Triad. Leffen constantly engages in both of these activities. The correlation skyrockets with trolling in particular, which is what Leffen was originally known for.
That's right, guys. Trolling is something that only is done by vicious sadists and Machiavellians. Honestly, if Hitler was alive today, he probably would have done a little trolling himself.
Part of what this video will do is blow the doors open on the fact that this isn't just a villain persona, but who Leffen really is, and so you'll need to understand the Dark Triad. The Smash community needs to hear this information, because at this rate, it'll continue to funnel resources into Leffen, and so people need to know who they're supporting. As I said earlier, the Dark Triad consists of 3 traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Although these traits are often depicted as a triangle, it is more accurate to depict them as a Venn diagram, since they all have overlapping qualities. Furthermore, having even one of these traits makes it much more likely to have the rest. The way the Dark Triad works is as follows. Narcissism isn't too malevolent on its own, but it mixes horribly with the other 2 traits, making it highly malevolent in the end. This is because narcissism can be thought of as self-admiration to the point that it can be considered a disease. A narcissist needs to be the center.
Narcissism can also be thought of as focusing way the fuck entirely too much on yourself, and how some guy wearing a shirt is a reference to how he wants revenge against you or something. But I'm sure you wouldn't know anything about that.
Of attention at all times and will go to great lengths to make sure it happens. They can't take any form of criticism either, and are highly insecure about their appearance. Narcissists will also engage in bad faith arguments just to abuse people. They will use faulty argumentation and lies as much as necessary to avoid losing an argument. The next trait is psychopathy, which is the most malevolent of the 3 traits. Psychopathy is characterized by antisocial behavior, which means behavior that violates the rights of other people and disrupts society. Psychopaths are...
Yes, well, as we've covered, blocking people on Twitter violates their rights, so... You know, where are the freedom auditors when you need them?
Also impulsive, selfish, unemotional, and remorseless. Finally, Machiavellianism refers to an ends justifies the means philosophy that involves exploiting and manipulating people in order to gain power. Machiavellians are absent in morality and have a high degree of self-interest. They believe in status over everything and will go to unbelievable lengths in order to obtain it. Machiavellianism is the most important trait to keep in mind throughout this video because if you think about it, it's the only one that isn't visible. Everything else on this list is visible if you know what to look for, but you wouldn't know how someone like Leffen has exploited the Smash community in order to serve his own interests. Among all of these traits, there are several things they have in common. Dark Triads are low in agreeableness and extremely neurotic, which means they're constantly moody and angry. They also lack consciousness and empathy, which means they can't put themselves in the shoes of other people. The most important
Have you ever once put yourself in the shoes of Leffen while you were making this, Hacks?
trait by far, though, is that Dark
Even
Triads
once?
are pathological liars. This is because all of their overarching traits benefit from lying. Earlier on, I showed you the term preemptive defense, which Leffen does by stating that he is truthful to a fault in his Twitch bio.
Yeah, that's right. Once again, friends, this is all taking place over the game that brought us Pokefloats. Periodic reminder, once again.
The article this excerpt is from is titled 20 Diversion Tactics Highly Manipulative Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Psychopaths Use to Silence You. The article lists plenty of strategies Leffen uses on a regular basis if you scroll through his Twitter feed. These include gaslighting, nonsensical conversations, generalizations, misrepresentations, aggressive jabs described as jokes, a condescending and patronizing tone, and shaming. I'm not going to provide examples of these because you can easily find them by scrolling through Leffen's Twitter feed for even a few seconds. However, there's something called projection that I want to take a moment to go over.
You know, people in chat are pointing out that, oh my god. Shut up, Sephiroth Music. People in chat are pointing out that this guy is kind of ableist, and while I do hate that term, like all the other Tumblr speak, this is kind of ableist if you think about it, in the sense that this man is basically saying that this guy has a light Yagami avatar, so therefore that means he's a sociopath, and Light Yagami from the anime series Death Note represents all sociopaths or something. It's very, I don't know, problematic. He's a problem. I don't know.
Since it's a little more complicated. Projection or psychological projection is when someone insults other people by displacing things that they know to be true about themselves. Projection is a defense mechanism that is used to avoid accountability, and in the case of truly horrific people, it can be very abusive. This is why when Leffen called Magic Scrumpy a cheater, he didn't just call him a cheater. He called him a cheater with a victim complex. It's also why Leffen told ESAM that he only cares about things that benefit him, why he called Hungrybox a sociopath, and why he's referred to me as his stalker. Every single one of these tweets needs...
Yeah, gee, why would he have possibly thought that you were his stalker with your 2.5-hour fucking video talking about how he's stinky poo-poo? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he got that idea.
To be interpreted in the reverse direction because they're all projections. And once you understand that, it becomes clear how wicked of a person Leffen really is. The problem is that not everyone is familiar with projection, and so people actually side with Leffen when he says these things. As you can see, the signs that Leffen is a dark triad have been right in front of us the entire time. Now that you're viewing things from this perspective, I'll show you some examples of each of the 3 dark triad traits, starting with Machiavellianism.
Guys, the signs were in front of us all along. We only needed to listen and we would have known. You know, the really sad part about this video, too, is that the way he describes it does sound like Leffen is a bit of a fucking asshole, but it's also like, I don't know, man, you've made such a ridiculous, silly video that makes you look like such an asshole yourself that, like, nobody is ever going to ever take it seriously. The next time someone criticizes Leffen, they're gonna be making jokes about you. Like, if there's any validity to the things that he's saying here, nobody's ever going to fucking believe it because the rest of this video is just so full of shit.
Hey guys, it's Leffen here again.
You know, this whole video, we're 27 minutes into this fucking thing. It's like, it's going off about how he's a Machiavellian, sociopathic, psychopath, stalker, totalitarian, fascist dictator, and the first time he shows up on the screen, it's like this warm fucking lighting, and he's just like, "Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing?" It's like... Yeah, man, there he is, the king of the Illuminati.
I forgot to mention that I'm going to be doing a charity stream this Friday. It's going to be for RAIN, which is the biggest anti-sexual violence charity in the United States.
The video you're watching is blatantly insincere just based on the way Leffen raises his voice. He's speaking in a high-pitched voice because he knows that he needs to appear friendly and charitable in this moment, and he doesn't actually feel those emotions. We can't forget that this is the same...
Or because he's, like, promoting a charity for fucking battered women or whatever, and, you know, he needs to sound, like, chill and pleasant, and he doesn't want to be like, "What's up, gamers? Welcome back to the fucking promotion. Today we're talking about the battered women's charity." What? Yeah, that's right, gamers. You can support this epic charity. And, like... No, of course not. Fucking of course not. He's trying to sound, like, nice and pleasant and whatever. He would be more of a sociopath if he just, like, had a flat baseline tone and didn't affect his speech at all. But go on. Go on with saying he straight up doesn't believe it when he's, like, talking about this charity for battered women. Again, this is what I'm saying, like, this is pretty legitimately, like, defamation as far as I can tell. Like, he is straight up being like, "Yeah, you don't mean it when you were promoting that charity. You actually wanted the women to be battered." Like, it's some pretty high-tier fucking shit-talking, at the very least. I don't know.
Who was once banned for being a chronic liar with a manipulative personality, and that this slip-up isn't merely a coincidence. Moving on to narcissism, take a look at this post Leffen made in 2011. Someone had listed a bunch of Melee sets they recommended watching.
Moving on to narcissism, here's a post that this man made when he was 15 years old. Yeah, of course he was a fucking narcissist. When you're 15, the entire world fucking revolves around you and your problems. Of course he was a fucking narcissist. I'm pretty sure that guy was as well. But we don't see all his posts from fucking 10 years ago. We are talking about posts from 2011, everybody. This is an era when I was still, like, pretending to be a trip friend on 4chan. Almost slipped up. I almost said the non-Pride Month word. I almost did it. This is back when I was still pretending to be, like, you know, like, stir up drama in fucking V threads. Like, this is how far back we're going. This is a pre-Gamergate society, everybody. And we're actually going back that far to show what a fucked up guy this Leffen dude is. If this isn't an example of fucking cancel culture, this shit, it's literally like, hey guys, he made these posts 10 years ago on the Smash forum. Guys, can we put him in jail, please? Like, this is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous.
It just so happened to sort Leffen's sets individually rather than grouping them. Leffen then commented that he liked how the way the sets were sorted placed more emphasis on himself, which is an extremely narcissistic
Oh no, I have the pass to say it, but I'm, you know, I don't want to have to clear it with the authorities and everything.
comment to make.
You know how
Additionally, Leffen refers to himself as an icon in his Twitter bio and has several heavily edited photos of himself that uphold that belief.
Yeah, he's a bitch.
Lastly, I'll show you an example of psychopathy. The fact that Leffen used to state that he is really mean in his social media bio is an indicator of psychopathy in itself, but I want to give you a real-world example. When I beat Leffen at Genesis 7, I was wearing a red pair of Adidas pants with white stripes on them. These pants would become synonymous with my run at that tournament. A few months after Genesis 7, someone sent me a picture they took of Leffen streaming. Leffen was wearing a red Adidas shirt with white stripes on its sleeves while editing a digital controller's button layout.
Chat. He wore the same Adidas stripes. Therefore, he's mocking me! It's not even the same. Motherfucker's pants are red with Adidas stripes. This guy's wearing an orange shirt with Adidas stripes. Adidas has stripes. A lot of their clothes have stripes. What? At what point in the production of this video did you graduate from crack to cocaine? Please tell me.
Again, this wasn't a coincidence. It was a psychopath's way of showing that he wants revenge. Needless to say, the behaviors you're going to find in this video are completely bizarre, but you might be wondering why I'm making this video.
Yeah, this is pretty fucking bizarre!
Now because the status quo of Melee is becoming increasingly dystopian, and I've been growing increasingly discontent with it. It seems that instead of opposing the Dark Triad, we've actually embraced it as part of our culture. When Leffen randomly attacks people from other gaming communities, for example, we watch and laugh. Then, our content creators turn it into the latest news. This leads to other communities telling us to take Leffen back to the shithole he came from. Even worse is the fact that we built a bot off of Leffen's AI and used it to broadcast his mindset to thousands of people. Once you realize why the people behind Deep Leffen Bot found Leffen's personality so fascinating, it's actually a lot more dystopian than it looks. Above all else, though, there was something that happened recently that drew the line for me, and it had to do with the filmmaker named Hbox. For those who don't know, Hbox is the director behind the original Smash Bros. Documentary that turned Melee into a major esport back in 2013. In 2020, Hbox returned to us with a new documentary called Metagame, which covered the newer generation of Melee players. However, Metagame wasn't received nearly as well, largely due to what people viewed as Leffen's character assassination.
Character assassination.
Of Swedes who knew about Evidence.zip, and Leffen didn't like that. Even though Metagame didn't reveal too much about Evidence.zip, it was still the current generation's only glimpse at the truth, and Leffen made it clear that he wanted it taken down. At first, Leffen complimented the first few episodes of Metagame for how incredible they were, but when the episodes that talked about Evidence.zip aired the next day, everything changed. Leffen frantically began to tweet about Metagame every several minutes. His tweets suggested that Evidence.zip was a conspiracy, and that Metagame was a terrible documentary for assassinating his character. Leffen tweeted so frequently that he seemingly went insane.
He seemingly went insane, everybody! It's not as if people have ever live tweeted something that they've been watching. Now, he went insane. He went, quite frankly, mad! Yeah. That's right.
On and on.
Clearly he was watching this thing, and then the thing started to talk shit about him, and he didn't like how it talked shit about him. and so his opinion changed. Maybe that makes him a bit of a bitch, but it doesn't exactly make him actual Hitler. But go on.
There was no end. The next terms I'm going to introduce are called narcissistic injury and narcissistic rage. Narcissistic injury occurs when a narcissist perceives something as a serious threat to their self-esteem. It will happen if the narcissist feels that their true self has been revealed, and that people have caught on to their hidden behaviors and motivations. This triggers narcissistic rage, which when a narcissist goes insane and becomes extremely violent. Narcissistic rage happens at the end of Death Note when the police force finally close in on Light Yagami, the mastermind behind years of political crimes that terrorize the world. After realizing that he's been caught, Light begins to laugh like a maniac and contort his body in strange ways while the police force watch in awe.
Again, reminder that this is his depiction of crazy people. This is his depiction of mental illness. Is a character from an anime. Oh my god, it's really him, guys.
The way narcissistic rage works is it has two phases. The first phase is an angry outburst, and the second phase is a self-aimed wrath. This means that the narcissist will actually degrade themselves, as to suggest that the way they've been insulted is preposterous. Leffen did this toward the very end of his rage when he tweeted a picture of his face edited onto a Dementor, which is a creature from Harry Potter that drains peace, hope, and happiness from the world around it. Although people saw this tweet as sarcastic, it was actually a lot more telling than they realized.
All of his posts mean so much!
Of him, which put extreme pressure on Hbox. Just a few hours after these episodes aired, Hbox had already been forced to issue an apology statement assuring people that re-releases of Metagame would be censored to remove all Evidence.zip footage. Many people call this out as revisionist history, but their voices were ultimately drowned out. The problem with this entire situation is that if you think about it...
It's quite enough of the Ars Nova. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, it's a little weird that the filmmaker just decided, oh yeah, I guess I better fucking clean up all the stuff that makes this one guy look bad. But I'm pretty sure he didn't, like, specifically say to do that. I don't know. It's kind of like a dream situation of, like, he probably could have told his fans not to, like, hound the filmmaker or whatever. But, he just kind of let that happen. So, I mean, again... You know, Leffen does seem like a bit of a bitch. That is the takeaway. But all this has done is just also expose that this man is also crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You know, you exposed Leffen, fella, but at what cost?
Hbox was screwed ever since the moment he decided to cover Leffen at all. This is because Hbox could have gone in one of two directions with Metagame. The first one was to tell the truth, which is what he did. Hbox is a professional filmmaker who's probably never not told the truth in his career, and so he approached the situation the same way as usual. But what Hbox didn't know is that he was catering to an audience that had never heard the truth about Leffen before, and couldn't believe the truth when they heard it. This caused Hbox to break his obligations as a filmmaker by agreeing to censor the truth. On April 24th, Hbox doubled down.
I mean, maybe he just shouldn't have done that. I don't know if we're really going to... I don't know if we can really blame this Leffen idiot for, you know, what this guy decided to do with the video. I don't know. That was his choice. It wasn't like a command from the God King Leffen himself.
By announcing that he'd be returning in June with a new episode of Metagame that would focus on Leffen, as well as new interview footage. In other words, propaganda. This announcement is the pinnacle of how dystopian the melee community has become. Rather than hear the truth, we would prefer to rewrite history in a way that glorifies people who don't deserve it. It's gotten to the point that we'll ostracize filmmakers who try to do the right thing for us, and make them come crawling back to us with propaganda in order to redeem themselves. After seeing what happened to Hbox, I realized that this community was desperately...
You know, somebody made a joke yesterday when I watched this that if you sped the video up every time he says the word propaganda, this video would probably be at least half the length. Probably quite a bit shorter.
In need of some factual information, and so I decided to make this video. The way this generation got here in the first place was through propaganda. TSM and Red Bull committed one of the biggest sins in esports history when they decided to erase the truth about Evidence.zip.
One of the biggest sins in esports history. Red Bull, they will fucking pay. I swear to God, this man has a vendetta against Red Bull.
And lie to people instead. The documentaries, interviews, and articles that these companies have put out in the past several years are nothing short of the most aggressive brainwashing campaign I've ever witnessed. It's almost as if nothing the media has told you.
The most aggressive. Have you ever researched World War II or like communist Germany or any of the other things that you repeatedly communist Germany, communist Russia, any of the things that you were repeatedly making allusions to throughout this video, all of the totalitarian states. Have you researched any of those? Because I'm pretty sure they're a little bit worse than this man who plays the game with fucking pokey floats.
You is true. Leffen sponsors have made it seem as though he's a cheerful and positive role model, and they've had friends and family members testify on his behalf as well. This false narrative is amplified by interviews with other community members who know nothing about the truth either. Red Bull even titled their documentary series Evidence.zip and portrayed Leffen's ban as a hero story, as if he was a phoenix rising from the ashes. It gets worse when you consider that Leffen surely influenced the narrative of these documentaries and had final say over all of them.
Yeah, because Red Bull wanted to make a fucking story for their thing. They didn't want it to be, oh, well, this guy who got banned is like, not banned anymore. Thanks for watching. They had to have, like, a protagonist. That's the way fucking documentaries like that work. Like an underdog or whatever. It's pretty boilerplate stuff.
Now, we're somehow at the point where I'm the last one left in Smash who knows the truth. I promise you that after I tell you the truth, every single piece these companies have ever put out about Leffen will be remembered as political terrorism. Back when I showed you the quote that explains how totalitarians gradually encroach on human rights, there was an implication that things can reach the point where it is too late.
That's right, back during the Rape of the Mind segment. Please continue.
This is why the quote reads, until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. If you look at the current state of the media, the Smash community is rapidly approaching a checkmate situation. Leffen has professional propaganda, a social media sanctuary they created by blocking thousands of people, and a podcast named after his rhetoric. He will mob you on Twitter if you speak his name, and he has successfully defamed YouTubers whose views weren't in line with his. He's also on your TV screen when you tune into tournaments he isn't playing in. What the community is now agreeing to do is erase the one shot they had at learning the truth and replace it with propaganda instead. The situation Hbox has been forced into in order to appeal to this community is catastrophic and goes to show how corroded we've become. Hbox is a filmmaker who's been pressured to succumb to totalitarianism, but people don't realize that. People don't realize that they're witnessing the death of their free speech.
Yeah, it's almost like you're the only person who thinks that. Wow.
Thought of as building a car. The goal is to create an empire in which everything is automated, but the hardest part is giving that empire 4 wheels and an engine. The empire needs things like a brainwashed population, means of instilling fear, loyalty, and the abolition of free press. From there, it can operate smoothly. There is no doubt that the abolition of free press is one of the most necessary steps toward these types of societies. The first thing people need to realize is that none of this is a drill. Leffen is attempting totalitarianism, and that's going to become clearer and clearer as this video goes on. The second thing people need to realize...
Again, we have quotes from Fidel Castro in this video about Smash Brothers. I just can't understand how you would need to be in your head, to make a video like this, completely unaware that you are comparing this Smash Brothers player to Fidel Castro. I mean, maybe not. That's not what this quote is doing. That's not what it's comparing him to. But it's like, why in a serious context would you ever, I don't know, man. I just don't understand. A lot of people in chat are using the autism word, and, that's kind of ableist. Oh my god, but yeah, it is the kind of thing where, you have to have something, psychologically wrong with you. Not to stoop to Hax's level here and get all fucking Dr. Phil on you, but you have to have something going on in your brain that isn't exactly normal to be able to fucking make a video where you use quotes from Hitler and Castro to talk about a man who plays the game with pokey floats. I don't know.
Is that there's still time. Leffen may have conquered the press, but he can't undo the information I'll be giving you in this video. Once people find out what the Smash community has become, I'm hopeful that things will change.
Well, watching this video, I have some idea of what the Smash community has become.
For now,
it's not
I'll be
good.
listing totalitarianism as the first of many charges against Leffen.
Guys, this is the first of his list of sins. First we had Lindsay Ellis. Now we have Leffen's fucking list of sins, everybody. Leffen is beyond any reasonable doubt attempting totalitarianism. Beyond any reasonable doubt, chat. I don't know. I reasonably doubt some of this. Just a bit of it. Just a little bit. He can't keep getting away with it! Chapter 3, Evidence.zip.
I'm now going to tell you the true story behind Evidence.zip.
I'm now going to tell you the true story behind that time that I paid for WinRAR.
I'm violating multiple people's privacy by doing this, but there's no other choice.
I don't know, is there no other choice? I don't know. I'm violating multiple people's privacy, but...
10 years ago, I made a thread on Smashboards that advocated for a ledge grab limit being added to the Melee rule set. I knew this rule needed to be implemented for a lot of reasons, but at the time, people didn't realize that. I assured people that one day they'd realize that I wasn't kidding.
One day you will understand!
A user named Leffen went well out of his way to destroy it. Leffen and I didn't even know each other, but he came across as incredibly angry and determined to undermine my credibility. He insulted me many times and told me that I was a moron for thinking that camping the ledge is broken.
Once again, 15 years
8
old.
years later, Leffen would be begging tournament organizers to implement a ledge grab limit because of how broken camping the ledge is, according to his own words. Players like Hbox and MeToo had shown that ledge camping needed to be banned by then, and so Leffen was now in agreement with what I'd been saying since 2011. Luckily...
So now, you need to understand something, chat. This all harkens back to the fact that this Leffen fellow shitposted in this man's fucking thread on the Smash forum 10 years ago. Almost 10 years to the day. This is June 19th. It's like June 7th right now. We're almost 10 to the 10-year anniversary of that thread. And all of this, I promise you, all of this fucking video is basically owing to him having, like, a problem with this man, like, memeing on him in his fucking Smash thread. This is like 2010 forum drama that has turned itself into this man fucking seething with rage over the course of 10 years and releasing this fucking crazy totalitarian dystopian manifesto. I don't know if this is on par or worse than the glitch text document of the, like, 30-year-old woman who was just, like, wrote, like, a 500-page takedown about some 13-year-old who was into a fucking SJW cartoon. I think this is worse than that. I think this is slightly worse in some way, because at least that was just, like, some crazy person interacting with some girl for, like, a couple months or whatever. Actually, wait, no, that might be worse. I don't know, that's up to you, really. I don't know. The way that this has been like a deep-seated fucking back-of-the-mind, like, his revenge plan. This man's like fucking Dio from JoJo.
He and I didn't even know each other, but he came across as incredibly angry and determined to undermine my credibility. He insulted me many times and told me that I was a moron for thinking that camping the ledge is broken. 8 years later, Leffen would be begging tournament organizers to implement a ledge grab limit because of how broken camping the ledge is, according to his own words. Players like Hbox and MeToo had shown that ledge camping needed to be banned by then, and so Leffen was now in agreement with what I'd been saying.
Someone in chat says, official pick up a football moment. Yeah, go outside, hug a tree for 10 minutes, hacks, please.
Saying since 2011. Luckily for Leffen, I was working on a YouTube video about ledge camping around that same time. My video went in depth about why a ledge grab limit was needed, and would end up convincing the community that I was right all along. Leffen had no choice but to endorse my video at that point, but
he had no choice. He had to begrudgingly fucking... There's no chance that by the year 2019 that this man grew up a little bit and was able to put aside his differences with your weirdo ass and just be like, yeah, that's a good video to explain it. No, this was a part of the fucking conspiracy against you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If anything here shows that Leffen is the bigger man in all of this, and not by much, because he's still seems like a bitch, but he's most definitely at least a little bit the bigger man than Hacks, who legitimately looks at Leffen being like, yeah, you know, your video was good about this, and is like, oh, this is a fucking declaration of war!
You can see how even then, he did so in a reluctant tone. The problem with today's
yes, that's right, chat. This man was right all along, okay? Everybody in the Smash community needed to understand that he was right, alright? He prophesized this 10 years ago. If only you fucking plebs had woken up to it back then we wouldn't have had upsets like the... I don't know anything about Smash, competitive Smash, so I can't really name any, but god damn it! Someday they will all listen to me!
Situation is that when Leffen throws a narcissistic tantrum like the one he threw in 2011, thousands
You don't call this a narcissistic tantrum?
of people will actually listen to him. Back then, this wasn't as much of an issue, but it was still a huge one. As time went on, Leffen would destroy many of my threads, even though I'd never done anything to him, and it began to intrude on my free speech pretty severely.
It began to intrude on my free speech because this man was mean to me on the forums! This video could just be 2.5 hours of him going, and it would be more coherent.
In February 2012, I'd had enough, and so I condemned Leffen in a post that told him to never use my name again. I also let him know that he was a menace who would inevitably cause the community problems in the future. After I made my post, Leffen's harassment didn't just get worse, it turned into stalking. I couldn't really go anywhere on the boards without Leffen being there, and it began to affect me a lot as a teenager. Smashboards was the only form of social media back then, and so this reached the point of me not wanting to sign onto social media at all. By early 2013, things had gotten to the point where I knew that Leffen needed to be banned from the community, and so I reached out to Armada. What Armada told me in response caught me by surprise. Armada told me that there was already a team of Swedes working to ban Leffen, and that I was welcome to join them. This is how I became involved with Evidence.zip. When Armada declared Leffen's ban official on February 9, 2013, he published some but not all of Evidence.zip. This is because Evidence.zip consisted of 2 parts, public forum posts and private testimonies. What you're looking at is the folder that was originally distributed to the public, which contained the forum posts. I'm the one who compiled the document with Leffen's Smashboards forum posts, which is why some people think I created Evidence.zip. I didn't necessarily create Evidence.zip, because other than...
So this guy was even involved in the original cancellation of Leffen. And I guess it just didn't fucking take, so he had to come back. He had to plot his revenge and bide his time for 10 years to, like, come back and fight Spider-Man one more time.
I was just another person who testified. However, it is true that I bridged the gap between Sweden and North America. The private testimonies within Evidence.zip were never released due to their private nature. I'm going to betray several of my friends by showing them to you, because the world needs to see them. Evidence.zip consisted of 3 Swedish players, 3 Swedish TOs, and 3 American players. One of the American players and all 3 of the Swedish players are what we'll call prospects. These were people who felt that Leffen had made it his goal to remove them from the Smash community. I just so happened to be the sole American prospect. Other than that,
why are we using the term
what
prospects?
They witnessed was more than enough to warrant
That's
banning
weird.
Leffen.
You're
Armada was
weird.
one of those 5 people. There's also a 10th document titled Letter to Genesis 3 Staff that was written by the Swedes collectively. Genesis 3 was originally supposed to happen in summer
Careful you don't press the wrong button there, Swedes. I know you're prone to that.
2013, hence the title of the letter. There's only one document I can't show you, and that is the 3rd Swedish Smasher's testimony. There are reasons I can't get into this testimony, so I'll be skipping it. Other than that, I'll be showing you excerpts from each of these testimonies.
Suspicious. So, now we get into this part where it's basically just a bunch of reading of people saying that he's a poo-poo head from 10 years ago when he was 15. And I'm sure it's all very damning, and yeah, I'm sure this was perfect grounds to get him banned fucking 10 years ago when he was 15. But basically, it seems like all of this is just, he's mean to me on forums, guys! He needs to be banned! A threat not only to the Smash community. Wait, is this... Oh, this is the letter to the Genesis 3 staff. Okay. But he's a threat not only to the Smash community, but to society! He is both a psychopath and a narcissist to a dangerous degree. Oh, dangerously cheesy. Yeah, this is just like 15 minutes of fucking text. It starts at like 38 minutes. and it ends at like 48 minutes.
After
so-
reading these testimonies, it should be clear why I've
10
been telling you
minutes.
that this community will be destroyed in another 10 years. We've been on a time bomb this entire time, and the press has done nothing but cover it up. Several of the people who testified for Evidence.zip were able to predict that Leffen had the potential to fully erode the Smash community, even internationally.
You know, it's getting to a point where like we don't even think about it anymore because he's used so much big, like theatrical fucking language. But when he uses the word testify, I'm just like, really testify? Or was this in a fucking court of law? Did that happen? Really? I don't think that happened. I don't know.
If he wasn't banned. That was 8 years ago. The fact that I can look at the state of Smash in 2021 and reasonably compare it to totalitarianism means that the prophecy is all too real.
He can reasonably compare it to totalitarianism, everybody. You know, because Hitler, okay, and Stalin, I mean, do you need any more information than that? Like, come on.
Throughout his career, Leffen has lied about the origins of Evidence.zip. Clearly, it wasn't the conspiracy he wants you to believe it was. Evidence.zip was a collective warning that Leffen is a dark tetrad with the potential to fully erode the Smash community, and the fact that this was kept hidden from people is nothing short of a travesty.
Travesty. A violation of our freedoms.
From Evidence.zip that I want to highlight is one from Armada's testimony. This is the quote that states, "At one point, Leffen basically told me and another Swedish smasher that he thinks humans shouldn't show as much respect toward each other as they do most of the time." This quote reveals that Leffen is...
Again, he was an edgy 15-year-old. Get the fuck over it. Holy shit. There was a time when when I named myself Better Than You on fucking V. Get over it. People used to be fucking edgelords back then.
Not only a Machiavellian, but high on the Machiavellian scale, meaning he believes that empathy is naive and that deception is necessary in order to get ahead. Essentially, Hbox view people as chess pieces that can and should be used in order to serve one's self-interests. I'm pointing this out because, as I told you earlier, Machiavellianism is the most important dark triad trait to keep in mind. It is the trait that will cause us to have to go back and reinvestigate several of the things that Leffen has done in order to determine how they may have been politically motivated. As you'll eventually find out, you should never underestimate the degree of bad faith and pathological lying that Hbox such as Leffen will utilize. Another important aspect of Evidence.zip is that it reveals Leffen's MO. From an early age, Leffen showed that he would latch on to prospects who he'd choose on a whim, then hunt them down until their careers were over. He would go to any lengths necessary to defraud these prospects, using strategies such as blackmail, gaslighting, and rumor spreading in order to ruin them. At first, these prospects seemed to be limited to those with physical or mental handicaps.
I love console commands like this. That's great.
But as time went on, Leffen began to target people for political reasons as well. I know this because I was the first person he chose.
You know, the question is no longer will you play Smash Brothers, but will you support the Smash Brothers player in the fight for banning abortion?
For these purposes.
Yes, I pretty much stole that joke from Bo Burnham, but don't worry about it.
In my case, Leffen seemed to dislike the fact that I had respected opinions that could potentially challenge his rhetoric, and so he wanted me gone. Unsurprisingly, Leffen has continued to target people who could challenge his market share for similar reasons in recent years. This would happen right in front of everyone's eyes, but it was well disguised, and so people failed to realize that there was a pattern.
He ain't Leffen around, that's right, chat. After Evidence.zip. After last season.
You should also know about what happened directly after Evidence.zip, because the press has lied to you about that too. Directly after Leffen was banned, he made it clear that Evidence.zip was a conspiracy and that he'd been wronged. He even said that he wanted to leave his past behind and cut ties with the Smash community. But on March 21st, 2013, Leffen had a change of heart. He suddenly decided that he was sorry for everything, and he confessed to several of the things that he had done, citing depression and anxiety as the motivating factors. The apology Leffen issued got covered by the Score Esports' documentary on him from 2018, which has 1.5 million views. It's the apology that people cite to this day, and the one that people believe is real.
But I know the truth.
Leffen's apology didn't know was that they had been manipulated. On the exact same day Leffen issued his apology,
"You have all been lied to! Everything you know is wrong!"
in North America, he also issued statements on the Swedish forums that...
You know, this is like the Smash Brothers equivalent of transvestigation. I don't know how many of you were here for that stream, but, like, it really is just this, like, oh, I know the secret truth about the thing, and everybody else is stupid but me, and I know what's really going on, and everybody else just doesn't see it, because they're all small brains, but I'm a big brain. It's like this, it's the same kind of mindset, you know?
warned them that they had defied him. Last year, I talked with one of the Swedes who testified for Evidence.zip about the fact that Leffen's apology was insincere. Although the Swedish forums are no longer accessible, he confirmed that Leffen's apology was fake.
It was fake, yes, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know, again, can you prove that his apology from like 10 years ago was fake? Can you prove that? Because this really does seem kind of defamatory. Just straight up saying, yeah, you lied about this and you lied about that, and I have no proof of it, but you did, I swear. Because you're a high mock.
This is made even more obvious by an excerpt from the letter to Genesis 3 staff, which explains how Leffen initially responded to being banned over in Sweden. The excerpt explains that Leffen had condemned the Swedes to the point that he seemed to want to take revenge on them. The excerpt also warns the reader that Leffen is someone who will endlessly claim victim status in order to evade accountability, which is exactly what he did in his fake apology. 2 weeks after Leffen's fake apology, a tournament called Beast 3 was held in Sweden. Beast 3 was the first notable tournament that Leffen was banned from, and so the Swedes who'd been abused by him were looking forward to their first Leffen-free tournament. But what people don't know is that Leffen actually showed up to this tournament in person and tried to convince the TOs to let him in. Leffen didn't seem to understand that he was actually banned from Beast 3, and so the TOs had to physically deny him entry. Around this same time, I was emailing Mr. Wizard about banning Leffen from EVO 2013. I was transparent about the fact that this was a complicated case and that it wasn't going to be easy to convey why a ban was necessary. Unfortunately, the EVO staff would end up rejecting the case.
No, I don't even need to keep making reference to Pokey Floats when there's names. There are names of Smash Brothers people like Mr. Wizard. You know, this serious video about fucking totalitarianism. He's talking about, yeah, you know, so I emailed Mr. Wizard about it. And again, these are emails from 2013. This is dating back older than probably some fucking people who watch competitive Smash. And yet we're dredging up emails from all the way back the fuck then. Did he save those emails back then, or did he have to like go searching through his archives to find them? Whatever it is, it's kind of fucking demented behavior.
On the basis of no physical assault, which is exactly what I feared would happen. A few months later, I flew to Vegas for EVO 2013. The first night I got there, I dropped my bags off in my hotel room and went to the Rio Hotel, which was nearby. I went to the Rio because the World Series of Poker was taking place there that year, and I wanted to watch people participate in it. I ended up spending a couple of hours at the Rio before realizing that I needed to head back to my hotel room to grab my phone charger, at which point I called my friend Cody, who I was staying with.
Nobody cares.
When I called Cody, I told him that I'd be heading back to the hotel to grab my charger. Cody then said to me, "Sure, but just so you know, Leffen's playing Melee in our hotel room."
He came there without any pants on.
When Cody said that to me, it was one of the weirdest things I'd ever heard. A lot of people vaguely knew that Leffen and I had beef, but people didn't know that this was the same person I had just tried to ban from the tournament we were at. Of all the people who could have ended up in my hotel room, the fact that it was Leffen wasn't a coincidence. He wanted to cause some sort of disturbance, and he succeeded. When I got back to the hotel, I didn't actually enter my room. Instead, I had Cody hand me my phone charger at the door. Leffen sat inside of my hotel room while all of this happened. These are logs showing that I discussed the situation with Cody last year.
Yeah, these are logs showing this, where this guy's like, hey, you remember fucking 2013 when we went to a thing? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, do you remember all this crazy shit? I went to the thing, and then I needed my charger, and you said Leffen was in a room. Yeah, I guess I remember that, okay.
These are logs showing that I discussed the situation with Cody last year.
This man is just begging for hacks to put down the fucking knife.
Later that weekend, something similar happened. I had spent a lot of EVO 2013 with my childhood friend J-Man, who was approaching retirement from Melee around that time. What I noticed is that during certain parts of the weekend, Leffen would make efforts to befriend J-Man, which led to lots of awkward moments where I didn't want to approach J-Man because he was with Leffen. This exact strategy was described by one of the Swedes who testified for Evidence.zip, who stated that after he began avoiding Leffen, Leffen looked to
This is like high school, like, oh, I can't go talk to Betsy. She's talking to Chad. Chad's gonna make fun of me if I go and try to talk to Betsy. I gotta go hide in the trash can instead.
Finish him by taking his friends away from him, which caused issues in his social life. These types of interactions show the ridiculous lengths Leffen will go to torment people once they're on his hit list. As you can see, Leffen never actually expressed remorse for the actions that got him banned. In fact, he did the opposite. He made no efforts to change either, which should have been obvious based on the way he barked when he took games off of Armada at Beast 4 in 2014. The problem is that 8 years have passed since Evidence.zip, and Leffen now has the entire Smash community in his back pocket. Someone with a dark triad mentality is able to severely disrupt society when given this much power, and Leffen has done exactly that. However, people haven't been viewing things from this angle, and so they never saw any of it. As I said earlier, Leffen would eventually transition into a full-fledged political con artist. The goal of his cons can be summed up in one phrase:
political con artist. How? He is a fucking fox main. What are you... The only thing fox mains are capable of is nonsense.
Socioeconomic resource transfer. Leffen is a Machiavellian who will do anything to get ahead socioeconomically, which means he'll go to unthinkable lengths to acquire fame and fortune. Between these two things, fame is Leffen's priority. He wants people to be controlled and underneath him so that he can continue to broaden his influence. I'll be showing you how Leffen has exploited the Smash community many times in order to achieve this. Another term you should be familiar with is socioeconomic resource drain. This term is appropriate because it describes
I need to
the
be
fact
familiar
that Leffen
with that
often
one?
targets
Really?
people such as myself who he views as political adversaries. Leffen's goal here is to drain his adversaries socioeconomically in order to further secure his position. This is a standard strategy for achieving totalitarianism. In Nazi Germany, for example, Hitler purged a large group within the Nazi Party in 1934. He viewed the people within this group as potential threats to his ascent, and so he needed them gone. Surely enough, this scheme was instrumental in Hitler's rise. Finally, social parasite is the term we'll use to describe someone who resorts to either of these strategies. In Smash, or any community for that matter, it's an unspoken rule that your success shouldn't come at the expense of others. Social parasites like Leffen don't believe in this mentality, and so they'll gladly exploit their community and their fellow competitors in order to ascend. Unfortunately, this opens the door for all sorts of immoral ways of getting ahead that people wouldn't normally consider, which have largely...
Fortunately, this opens the door for people with really crazy, fucked up, like, documentaries that go for 2.5 hours in ridiculous detail about forum posts from 10 years ago, and, you know...
largely contributed
who
to
would
where
have
Leffen is
guessed?
today.
Who would have guessed that Smash players would be capable of this? Why Levo exists. Okay.
Now that the stage is set, I'm going to begin listing manipulation tactics that Leffen uses on a regular basis. The first one is called the Totalitarian tiptoe, or tiptoeing for short. Tiptoeing is...
Researcher and author David Icke calls this tactic the Totalitarian tiptoe. Researcher and author David Icke. Yeah, you guys know who David Icke is? Have you heard of David Icke? Have you heard of the High Elves? David Icke, coronavirus conspiracy theory. David Icke, fucking, oh god, yeah, he's the one with the fucking, like, reptilians and everything. It all dates back to him. David Icke, this is where we're getting this handy information from. Good lord.
People to agree to terms that they would normally reject.
I've watched this video like 3 times now, and I've never noticed him say that David Icke is where this fucking information comes from. The Totalitarian tiptoe. Talk about a fucking tongue twister. Yeah. Now tell me about the lizard people next, Hacks, please.
This is the term that describes Leffen's gradual encryption.
Again, this is a video we're supposed to take seriously, and he opens it with a quote from Hitler, and then 56 minutes in, he's got a quote from the reptile guy.
Encroachment of free speech that I talked about earlier. As the Pat Miller quote explained, the best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed.
So, you know, now that I've seen that he's quoting David Icke, this really puts this all into more context. Why is he familiar with quotes by David Icke? Like, is David Icke someone that he listens to in his free time? Does he often spend time listening to him talk about the elite Illuminati lizard people? Is that, oh my god, I made the joke that this was like fucking transvestigation, but this is literally like getting into conspiracy territory. Good god. Quoting fucking David Icke. Holy shit.
The idea here is that the best way to erode people's rights is to do it gradually so that nothing happens abruptly enough to raise eyebrows. Over time, this can cause people to fail to realize that they've agreed to massively disadvantageous terms, such as the fact that Leffen is on the verge of reaching full censorship. Basically, don't skip from A to Z or else people will notice. Instead, advance a couple of letters at a time. Now that you know about tiptoeing, I want to start by showing you that nothing has changed since Evidence.zip, and that Leffen is still the same malicious person in the year 2021.
You know, there's gotta be a word for the phenomenon where somebody, you know, grows up and the people near them, like, they can't fucking fathom that they could be capable of that. And they're just like, no, they have to be up to something. There's no way that he could be, like, more mature than he was when he was 15. No way, bro. It's all part of a conspiracy.
At the very end of last year, I announced that I'd be hosting an online version of my tournament series, Hbox Nightclub, starting on January 2nd, 2021. The trailer stated that I'd be hosting a tournament every Saturday that didn't already have a tournament happening on that date. This is standard practice in the Smash community. We host tournaments for the good of the community, and so we don't overrun each other's tournaments. On January 2nd, my staff and I hosted Hbox Nightclub. There were 567 entrants, and the event was a huge success.
And you will never host another one, I can fucking guarantee you of that.
What a lot of people didn't understand is why Hbox Nightclub never happened again after that date. The real reason is very complicated.
Oh, is it now?
On January 3rd, the day after I hosted Hbox Nightclub, Leffen announced that he'd be starting up a weekly tournament series called Levo. To enter Levo, people would have to subscribe to Leffen on Twitch. Levo was going to happen every Saturday, which normally would have meant that it was overrunning Hbox Nightclub. The catch, though, is that Levo was a European event, and so no one batted an eye. Not even my staff saw what Leffen had just done, but I knew precisely what this meant. Leffen was tiptoeing, and he would soon look to overrun Hbox Nightclub entirely. If Leffen had announced the North American event on Saturdays, it would have raised too many eyebrows, so what he needed to do instead was take baby steps. Within a few weeks, he was inevitably going to expand Levo to North America. Once I saw this, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I was going to trade my entire tournament series to mount my case against Leffen, and so I shut down Hbox Nightclub. The interesting thing, though, is that nobody knew there wasn't going to be another event. Not even my own staff knew the truth. I'd begun to lie to everybody by telling them that the next event would be on January 23rd. I even announced this in the Hbox Nightclub Discord server. The reason I announced January 23rd as the next date was because there were upcoming tournaments on the next 2 weekends, and so if I was actually going to host another event, then I would have had to schedule around them. But I was only looking for one thing here, and that was to make Leffen take the next step on January 23rd.
Guys, this is the part of the video where he starts detailing the fucking fifth-dimensional chess moves that they played. Where it's like, I scheduled my event for this day, but I only did it to see what counter move that Leffen would make. I wish I could tell you it gets less crazy with time, but it really does not.
I would then be able to show this to people later. The tournament that happened the week after my event was called Galint. I ran fake ads at Galint because I needed to be absolutely sure that Leffen would see them. The ads said that the next Hbox Nightclub would fall on January 23rd. Then, on January 14th, the inevitable happened when Leffen announced that the Levo he'd be hosting on January 23rd would have a North American bracket. Because of how inconspicuously Leffen slipped this in, no one even noticed that he had just overrun another tournament. January 23rd is also when Leffen would start calling it Saturday Night Levo, which is a direct shot at Hbox Nightclub. Before I go any further, let me explain why this is so significant. Leffen wanted to overrun my tournament in order to weaken his longtime adversary. However, he knew that if his original announcement on January 3rd said that he'd be hosting a North American tournament on Saturdays, people would have brought up the fact that the East Coast had just gotten a major tournament series, and that he was blatantly overrunning it. So instead, Leffen started by hosting an EU-only tournament. Then, 2 weeks later, he slipped in an announcement that he'd be adding a North American bracket. This allowed Leffen to overrun Hbox Nightclub without anyone noticing. The steps Leffen took reveal a high degree of Machiavellianism. Not only does this show that Leffen has the capacity to manipulate the community, but it also shows complete disregard for the community. Whereas Hbox Nightclub was a free event, Levo requires you to sub to Leffen on Twitch, which means Leffen was willing to take a free event away from the community. This also shows the capacity for resource transfer, resource drain, and socially parasitic behavior.
Oh, those are my favorite Jedi moves in Star Wars Jedi Outcast.
Leffen's con may have been directed at me, but he was willing to exploit the community in order to execute it. One of the reasons I shut down Hbox Nightclub completely was because I wanted to see how Leffen would lie to people afterward. This would end up happening a month later. On February 27th...
So he shut down his own stream thing for Smash because he wanted to see how how Leffen would respond. This is not a naval, like, fucking routine, dude. This isn't War Games. You didn't need to read Sun Tzu to prepare for your Smash streams, you fucking wingnut.
28th, there was going to be a major European event called The Upset. The Upset was being held by Poilon, a company that had recently gotten into Smash. The upset singles bracket was going to take place on Sunday, February 28th, while Leffen would host Levo on Saturday the 27th. A few days before that weekend, Leffen's narcissism kicked into full gear. He started criticizing the upset for starting its Sunday bracket at 11 AM, as this would make it difficult for him to host Levo, then sleep, and enter the upset the next day. He started to make lots of other criticisms as well. Things got to the point that the upset's head TO had to step in and tell Leffen to stop shitting on his team's hard work, and that no one was forcing Leffen to enter the upset. The TO also accused Leffen of overrunning his event, since it would have been common courtesy for Leffen to not host Levo at all that week so that the first day of the upset could do better. Leffen then flat out lied to the TO's face by acting as though he cares about not conflicting with other events. We know that this is a lie because Leffen actually created Levo with the intention of overrunning Hax's nightclub.
No, he did not, you fucking weirdo! Holy shit, you canceled your fucking thing! And he made his thing! Why are you like this? Oh my god!
These types of cons can go a long way. Levo would go on to become the official qualifier for Summit's online events, whereas it's entirely possible that Hax's nightclub would have received this partnership if not for Levo overrunning it. Like I said though, I was willing to trade my tournament series so that I could show you this. The moment I saw Leffen's announcement on January 3rd, I knew that I had the opportunity to catch him in a string of lies.
Another sin is added to the list, guys. How to destroy your box. Well, I can tell you, you ain't gonna be crushing any box
The crazy part is
anytime
that
soon.
in January, Leffen launched not one, but 2 political cons at me. While all of this was going on, there was another con aimed at the box, which is the ergonomic controller that I sell. The con began on January 5th when Leffen tweeted that he'd be live streaming a review of a box he just got in the mail. This was yet another tiptoe.
Oh yeah,
Just like
this is another fucking tiptoe. You see that right there? That's a tiptoe. Yeah, so it's time to get into this ridiculous, nonsensical fucking controller made for weirdos. I'm excited.
when Leffen tiptoed by announcing Levo, he was now tiptoeing once again. To show you how obvious it is that this was a tiptoe, consider this Instagram post that Leffen made in 2017 in which he claimed he'd be showcasing notched GameCube controllers. Leffen then posted his so-called notch showcase to YouTube and started to say things like these within the first few minutes.
Alright, so first off, one common thing that people say is like, oh, you know, the fact that the box or the Hbox controller, so digital input, gives you perfect wave dashes isn't a big deal. You can just notch your controller to get perfect wave dashes. This, even with notches, this literally never happens. Truck Jitsu said, this isn't a good reason. You can just make the box, you can just modify the box just less than perfect. No, you can't. It's not really that they're objectively better.
Can you guys just play the fucking Nintendo Baby Smash game with Poke Floats and not require the use of, like, specialized fucking controllers to gain an 0.1% advantage? Like, do you really... What is wrong with Smash, like, competitive Melee players? Honestly, this is ridiculous. We need to modify our fucking GameCube controllers to have extra notches so that we can do this ridiculous glitch move. Like, can't you just, like, get better at the game without using a bunch of ridiculous, stupid fucking nonsense? I'm sorry, I had to rant about that, but Christ.
That it's 100% consistent. It's perfect. It's far more important to be 100% consistent than 100% perfect in Melee. And that's the inherent problem with having digital input. You play outside of the rules.
Leffen's notch showcase wasn't even about notches. It was a video intended to convince you that the box needed to be banned. The only reason Leffen used a different title was to trick people into watching the video. This is why when you see Leffen claiming that he'll be reviewing the box 4 years later, he's obviously being deceptive here as well.
They both are kind of fingerprint magnets, but I think the box is worse. For the hand position for this one, I actually feel like these buttons are like too high up, but I have never
Guys, he said that my buttons were too high up. This is war!
seen this many cuts on anything ever. It has 1 billion small cuts.
Within the first few minutes of Leffen's review, it becomes pretty obvious that he's tricked people into watching a stream of him ripping into the box the entire time. I don't actually care about the comments you heard him making just now, but the comments that came afterward are the ones that would end up causing
Are you
huge
sure? Are you sure you don't care? Are you sure you didn't make this 2.5 hour video because you care quite a lot, actually? I don't know.
problems.
For me, I might actually swap so that this button is Z, so I can grab like this. and so that I can L cancel with R. Because I think L canceling with R is better than with light. A lot of people will not agree with me, but I am very sure about it.
Leffen had begun to spout factually incorrect information about L canceling in Melee. He was then using that information.
Factually incorrect information. He said he didn't like where the Z button was placed. Can you imagine Nintendo showing up like Sakurai shows up to your fucking door and he sees that you've got this ridiculous box controller and he's just like, I heard you were fucking trying to start some shit with me, motherfucker. Oh, what? The regular controls aren't good enough for you? Like, that's where we're at, just to keep you up to speed.
Information to tell people that the box is designed incorrectly and that 2 of its button locations should be swapped. To show you what I mean, here's a diagram of the box's button layout. The 8 buttons being highlighted in blue are called home row buttons because they're the ones that you rest your fingers on.
Chat, look at this fucking ridiculous layout. Look at this fucking ridiculous nonsense layout. Why is up over here? What the fuck? I don't care. You know what? If you've got like hand problems, motherfucker, I've got one hand and I don't need this fucking monstrosity. Play a different game. Get to competitive Bejeweled. I don't care. This fucking thing, if you own this, you deserve to have your fucking virginity card reissued. Holy shit.
As you can see, the Z button is on the home row. This is a crucial design decision that Leffen was contesting by telling people that Z should be swapped with R. The reason you heard him give for this is that digital L cancels, which are performed with L or R, are allegedly better than analog L cancels, which are performed by lightly pressing L or R or pressing Z. Therefore, there should be a digital L cancel button on the home row, according to Leffen. As the person who spent 4 years designing this controller, I'm going to explain in detail why Leffen's button layout should never be used. The first thing to know is that Leffen is incorrect in telling you that digital L cancels are better than analog L cancels. It's actually the other way around. I ended up having to make a YouTube video about—
This is literally your opinion is wrong about button inputs. The 2.5-hour documentary.
this in February because of how much misinformation Leffen would end up spreading. There have also been other YouTube videos about why you should analog L cancel, such as the one Mike Hayes made a few years ago. Since I don't expect everyone to have seen these videos, I'll give you a brief rundown of why analog L cancels are better. Analog L canceling is better than digital L canceling because it doesn't force you to pair your L cancel input with a tech input, even without much of an understanding.
Okay, I no longer care. Skip the fucking stupid menial information about your shitty controller. I don't know,
Digital L
man.
cancels. Take a look at what ended up happening to him.
This is like 20 minutes of fucking information about how this man is wrong about like a button input or some stupid shit. Who the fuck cares? Holy god. The only thing that's good about this video is Leffen's fucking character select screen on Melee. That's pretty nice.
Instead, find out a shield. In both of these situations, the attacker should extend their tech window by analog L canceling. Altimore and Leffen would end up going in circles for the rest of the night. Eventually, Altimore gave up on trying to get Leffen to stop misinforming people. Then, the next day, Leffen continued to broadcast the idea that digital L cancels are better.
So that's the left layout. Also, it makes L canceling with hard press a lot easier.
Look at this fucking shit. Look at Fox moving around on the screen here. Just look at him move. Look at he bounce. Look how fucking ridiculous and unnatural that is. Why would you ever fucking play the game like this?
Clearly optimal.
Leffen was refusing to face the facts just so he could coin his own button layout, and it was taking its toll. The misinformation he was spreading would start to cause mass confusion. Less
Misinformation.
experienced players were rapidly beginning to believe that the box was designed incorrectly, and that they should L cancel the wrong way as well. It was eerily similar to when
He shit talked my weirdo controller.
complained that Ultimate players were treating Leffen's word as law. A week later, another moderator named Otak began to take serious issue with what Leffen was doing. Otak said it was weird for a player as good as Leffen to use such a bad button layout, and that he was actively misleading box users into thinking that there was something wrong with their product. Otak added that it was even—
You know, I would like to point out that next to totalitarianism and like fascism on Leffen's list of sins is he didn't like my button layout for my weirdo Star Trek controller.
Worse, that Leffen was misinforming people about L canceling, as this would damage the entire Melee player base.
Why don't people just get a fucking clue and start playing Smash with the Xbox Mech Warrior controller or whatever? Was it Steel Battalion? I forget what game it was, but it was the one that has the ridiculous nonsense controller that's like a 5-piece system of levers and switches. That's what we need for Smash. You gotta get that 0.15.2% fucking advantage on your L dash canceling or whatever. Get a fucking hobby.
On January 18th,
I suppose this is your hobby, but get a better hobby.
His fraudulent rhetoric to Twitter. He posted a Twitch clip which explicitly
lied
stated
about the
that digital L
buttons.
cancels are better than analog L cancels in its title for all 300,000 of his followers to see. By this point, Leffen had also implemented chat commands.
You know, I'm gonna go ahead and make a statement. I straight up don't care if he lied about button presses. I don't care. I just don't care. I could not bring myself to give a shit, even if it's 100% true, and something tells me that it's a bit of a stretch to call whatever he did a lie. But no, I don't care, man. I could not give a shit.
To ramp up the rate at which people would be misinformed. It seemed that the more we tried to educate Leffen, the more he saw that we were growing frustrated, and so he retaliated with even more lies. At this point, Otak had seen enough, and so he confronted Leffen in a separate...
By the way, Chad, as we are now about halfway through the video, I might do a little more after this video. I don't know. I have some other stuff to look at, which we might want to take a proper gander at. But as we're about halfway through, I'd like to mention that I am drinking the Appleton Estate 12-year Jamaica rum. Tonight. I had a nice rum and coke earlier. It was very nice. If you're of legal age, I hope you're sharing in the drinks. Please don't try to do a drinking game. I considered a shot every time he says propaganda, but you know, I know the joke every time is, but you'd die if you tried that. Well, every time anybody makes a joke drinking game, somebody has to be the one that's like, but you die, lol, don't do that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like putting my liver through what I'm putting my brain through watching
Discord
this.
server about the misinformation he'd been spreading. This would mark the third attempt to get Leffen to stop lying. Just like with Altimore, Otak's conversation with Leffen went nowhere. Leffen would insult Otak multiple times and make generalizations that kept things going in circles endlessly. After Leffen continued to refuse to see Otak's points,
that's some
Otak
powerful
gave up
stuff.
on trying to talk to him, and ended the conversation by saying that there's no world in which digital L cancels should be viewed as a silver bullet solution. In Otak's own words, a much...
This is so dumb. Get through it. I hate this. Frauds like you and Leffen are actively damaging the box community by advising people to swap the locations of R and Z. If you're going to advise people to use a bad button layout, then you've got blood on your hands! Deal with it! Okay. We are now advancing into the heavy metal portion of the evening. Hang on. I've got just the song for this. Let's see. There you go. There you go.
of R and Z. If you're going to advise people to use a bad button layout, then you've got blood on your hands. Deal with it. I'm sure people still remember this tweet because it gets referenced to this day. No, my tweet wasn't polite whatsoever, but that's because my company had been getting defrauded for the past month by a pathological liar.
Defrauded!
Fortunately, Twitter didn't see things this way, and so I ended up getting ripped on for several weeks. Pipsqueak would make follow-up tweets suggesting that people should stop listening to me, and other people made tweets that joked about how much I had taken offense to a button swap. Yet as I've shown you, swapping certain button locations can completely destroy the box, and I was simply trying to protect my customer base.
You're gonna ruin it if you change the button combinations! Stop it!
After I deleted my tweet on February 4th, I issued an apology statement in which I said that I'd acted unprofessionally. My apology was insincere and was only meant to perform damage control. I'd done absolutely nothing wrong, and I shouldn't have ever been in this situation. I consider my apology very similar to Samox's statement from December in which he apologized for telling you the truth about Evidence.zip. We're at the point where companies and filmmakers can find themselves in bad PR situations if they don't conform to Leffen's lies. It's incredibly dystopian, but it's also the reality. After seeing me end up in a bad PR situation, Otak actually quit the Melee community that same night. I later asked him if he was really done, and he confirmed that he was, because according to him, Leffen had ruined the community.
Not gonna lie, I see him as the Trump of the Melee community.
Otak compared Leffen to Trump in the sense that they both cultivate ignorance in their audiences and plan out everything politically in ways that people don't see. Even after February 4th, Leffen would continue to spread his rhetoric, but now Leffen wasn't just going after L canceling, he was completing the con by going after the box's layout.
But I was thinking that, like, you know, for the layout stuff, like for the box layout, it's actually crazy how much better my layout is. The more I play and the more I think about things, the more I realize like how bad the default one is.
Damn, dude, you don't have to fire a shot across the bow like that.
Remember when I said that if
Dark was the hour!
Leffen were to throw a narcissistic tantrum like this one nowadays, it would cause serious problems? Now you know that I wasn't kidding. Leffen chose to set up his stream every day and knowingly lie about game mechanics in a way that would damage my company's customer base and PR. I even ended up having to make a YouTube
Oh, your fucking company. Shut the fuck up.
video to debunk the lies he was spreading, but it's not like my video undid nearly all of the damage. After I made my video, Axe contacted me in private to thank me for making it. He said that he didn't know why so many people had been L-canceling the wrong way lately, so I told him it was because Leffen had been lying to people. He lied to people day after day after day, and abused the fact that a lie told often enough becomes the truth.
Here's a quote from Vladimir Lenin. And here's Pokey Floats. That's all I'm saying. Good God. Add another sin to the list! Oh, the Dark King will pay for this!
Back
Okay,
in
what are we
2013,
on?
Evidence.zip told us that Leffen
Chapter
was a dark
6?
triad who would
Okay.
engage in this type of deceptive behavior. We're now in 2021, and clearly nothing has changed. So the question is, what did Leffen do between 2013 and 2021 that had dark motivations people weren't considering? As it turns out, he did a lot.
Valinor's empty now, honestly. It's all Leffen's fault. How I legalize
political-
the box. Okay, legalize it, dude.
In my opinion, Leffen's political cons began in 2017, and they all started with when I needed to legalize the box controller I'd been designing. The box has gone on to help thousands of Melee players in need of an ergonomic controller, and so thousands of careers were on the line back when its legality was being decided. But Leffen didn't care about that. He wanted me gone, and so he was going to get the box banned at any
Man, I cannot wait for the Blind Guardian album called The Dark Triad. That's gonna be such a fucking banger. It's gonna be on par with, like, At the Edge of Time.
cost. On January 19th, 2017, I announced to the Melee community that I'd be returning on a controller called the Box. I had just spent a few years away from the game due to hand and wrist injuries, and people were happy to see that I'd not only
Okay, the one cool thing about this stupid controller is that it lights up. It's an RGB gamer controller.
be coming back, but helping out other Melee players in need as well. Then, the exact same day I made my announcement, Leffen hosted a stream in which he made the following comments.
There's absolutely nothing. There's no proof or even anecdotal evidence that Smashbox is better for your hands. I feel like there's a real concern that other top players could develop severe hand issues as well. Well, his
Look at this fucking Dark Lord sitting on his throne of bones and skulls. This monster sitting here dictating his doctrine to the Smash community. I don't see how he can get away with it.
was like, it feels like it's genetic. He has like arthritis and stuff like that. And Hax was honest in his own. Like, yes, I do worry that other people get hand issues, but I also think that it's 95% at least their own fault, and then like 5% the GameCube controller or whatever.
Everything you just heard Leffen say is false. You just heard him say that there's no proof that keyboard controllers are more ergonomic than GameCube controllers, which everyone knows is untrue. He also lied about my hand
Everybody knows it's untrue, Leffen. Shut up.
injuries by claiming that I have genetic arthritis, which I don't. I have osteoarthritis, which is from wear and tear. The fact that Leffen felt the need to make these lies on the exact day of my announcement made it obvious what was to come. 2 months later, I would encounter Leffen at Summit 4, which took place between March 2nd and 5th, 2017. When I first got to the venue, I saw SFAT, Pew, Ice, and Leffen playing teams, so I said hi to all of them. Then, within 5 minutes of my arrival, Leffen got up and asked me to speak with him about the box, so I obliged.
Oh boy.
Him and I then went into a different room. My conversation with Leffen would end up being an interrogation in which he tried to get me to commit to certain lines of logic about how the box would be legalized. Leffen kept asking me questions about GameCube controller mods and in-game mechanics that the box's legality might affect. A week after I got home from Summit, Leffen began to flood Twitter.
You know, one thing I will say is that we're getting into the part where Leffen starts to say, yeah, this. And it'll essentially make anyone who's serious about Melee have to use a new $300 modded controller every 6 months. You're like, if your product is something which can basically consistently every time always do this like broken move that everybody uses, this stupid fucking wave cancel dashing whatever the fuck, then how is that not like an unfair advantage for the people that have your ridiculous controller? I mean, I think it looks stupid, but if you're gonna get good with it, then yeah, it's gonna make you better than everybody who's just playing like with a normal controller. By default, you'll just be better. So how is it like legal in a tournament to have this fucking controller that every time, 100% of the time, is able to let you do these moves that are, you know, sometimes kind of difficult to pull off, or, you know, not always a sure thing or whatever. It's like if some guy in a like Street Fighter tournament just had a button on his controller. Like some guy at a Street Fighter tournament is playing the 3DS version of Street Fighter, where you just press a button on the touch screen and it does a Hadouken or a Shoryuken or whatever. Like that's basically what the box is. If it's as good as like this guy is claiming that it is, it's this weird catch-22 of like, it probably sounds like it should be banned because you're hyping up how good it is, but you're also saying that it shouldn't be banned, and Leffen sucks because he says that it should, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I see Leffen's point, I guess.
With misrepresentations of everything I had told him. He even spread these misrepresentations to TOs such as Jabali and Mr. Wizard to try to reach a ban verdict as quickly as possible. When people asked Leffen what I thought about his tweets, he would clarify that I was in agreement with him, which wasn't true. And so I told Leffen that he was acting maliciously by putting words in my mouth. This was when things got even weirder. Leffen clarified that he had no malicious intent, but that he had made contact with the engineer who I was working with at the time. To be clear, Leffen lives in Sweden, and my engineer lives an hour away from me in New Jersey. When I saw Leffen's tweet, I realized that he had formed a strategic friendship, as he usually does. I didn't think too much of it at the time, but it would end up coming into play later.
Again, this Leffen guy just like trying to have a friendly working relationship with Hacks. He's like, oh yeah, I'd love to clear things up then, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's just trying to be, like, cordial. And Hacks is looking at this like it's some kind of fucking deep... Again, it's like 7th dimensional chess, where Leffen is, like, trying to be 5 steps ahead of him, like Light Yagami or something. Like, I'm sorry, man. Once again, touch grass.
I didn't think too much of it at the time, but it would end up coming into play later. A week later, Leffen began to flood YouTube with anti-box propaganda. The first video he made was released on March 21st, 2017. It was only a minute long, and it was called Box Controller Exposed. The video focused on a mechanic called 1.0 Cardinal, which is a mechanic in Melee that causes your analog stick value to increase by about 1% if you can pinpoint the final value along the cardinal. This improves things such as dash speed and DI by about 1%. Since the box is a digital controller, it can pinpoint this value every time, whereas GameCube controllers may struggle to do so. That being said, 1.0 Cardinal is a touchy subject, and it's easy to misconstrue certain things about it through the use of crafty language.
It also affects...
Your thing lets you do the thing 100% consistently, whereas a normal GameCube controller that's not modded doesn't let you do the thing 100% consistently. I don't get how you can even make the argument that it's like it shouldn't be in some way banned or whatever. I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know much about the whole competitive Smash thing, so I admit I might be a little ignorant about that, but I don't know. It's from what you're saying, it sounds like it makes you just better at Smash. Like, if you could do the button presses, then you can, like, always do the move. So, like, I don't know. I don't know how you can stick up for that.
Up or down. This also affects airspeed. It also affects even the Smash DI and normal DI. So you can literally DI further on a keyboard or a digital input. Do what you will with this information.
Leffen's video is incredibly disingenuous for several reasons, but the public didn't realize this. For one, the fact that Leffen's video is only a minute long and ends with "do what you will with this information" means it isn't intended to educate people, but to spread fear. There are several...
No, it's intended to say, here's some information, do what you will with it, but okay, guy.
arguments Leffen's video doesn't mention, such as the fact that 1.0 is a microscopic advantage that would never warrant banning a controller. Then there's the fact that some GameCube controllers are way better than others at pinpointing 1.0 due to hardware differences, yet those controllers aren't banned. There's also the fact that 1.0 should be fixed on UCF, at which point it isn't even a discussion anymore. Leffen's video wasn't intended to be truthful about any of these things.
Yes, it is a children's fighting game for GameCube. Reminder for everybody who is just joining us, this is, say it with me now, chat, this is the game with pokey floats. You know, just... I hate this image that I keep using, because it's like not even from Melee, it's like a mod or something, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just... I joke about it, but legitimately, if you just keep in mind pokey floats the entirety of this video, it becomes so much funnier. You just imagine Pichu, like, hurting himself with one of his fucking moves on pokey floats, and you're just like, man, that game sure was stupid. And I'm not even shitting on Melee, it's great for what it is, but what it is not a platform to talk about the totalitarian tiptoe.
The very next day, Leffen followed up with another video called Digital Input DI Meta Incoming. What Leffen shows in this video is that if Peach upthrows Fox and he DIs away with 1.0, he will escape her down smash, which he can't do with the value before that. But what Leffen doesn't show you is that this is only true at exactly 0%. Starting at 1%, the value before 1.0 is enough to get Fox out of this combo. Another thing Leffen doesn't show you is that even when Peach upthrows Fox at 0%, she still needs a frame-perfect down smash input in order to hit Fox on the frame before he lands. If Peach is even a frame late, then her down smash will miss. This means that what Leffen shows in his video is practically irrelevant because it needs not one, but two very precise conditionals. Releasing these types of deceptive videos...
What's great about this, too, like, can you imagine... So... Leffen says that he hired a lawyer, and frankly, he fucking should have, because again, this is, as far as I can tell, as far as I know what defamation is, this is some fucking defamation of the highest order. Just literally just saying random statements from this guy are complete total lies, and he's gaslighting people and manipulating them and all this fucking shit. This is actual defamation. Once again, Elisa Medhus, please take notes. But can you imagine the court case? The fucking Smash Brothers court case? Where a bunch of elderly boomer judges and lawyers have to deliberate over, well, no, he was defaming my business because, he said that the 1.1% chance of the button press and the wave cancel dash, fuck. I want an active court recording every day. I need that to be streamed live like the fucking Michael Jackson trials.
Videos when my career was on the line wasn't a joke, but Leffen's intention wasn't to be honest. It was identical to when you saw him lie about L canceling for political purposes earlier this year.
This is defecation!
2 days later, a tournament called Royal Flush announced that I'd be competing at their upcoming event. Royal Flush had invited me to play on the box, and so I accepted. However, within 2 hours of Royal Flush announcing that I'd be in attendance, Leffen hounded the TOs about redoing their controller rule set. This caused Royal Flush to rescind their invite. When Royal Flush rescinded their invite, I didn't...
So, again, you have, like, beef with this man, so you're making this angry video. Like, all throughout this video, there's all this proof that this is just, like, an angry man who has a bone to pick with this Leffen fella. And it's so comical. Like, you can try to look at this on some kind of, like, you know... neutral, unbiased perspective of like, well, yeah, you know, Leffen is kind of a dick, but it's like, this man is just upset that the dude, like, got him to not go to a fucking fighting game event or whatever. Like, this is just back and forth fucking shit-talkery on the internet turned into this, I keep saying ridiculous, different word, fantastical bullshit video.
Care too much, as my engineer and I were mostly focused on a separate project at the time. Our separate project was called the Arduino. This was an electrical mod that gave the GameCube
Oh, I really like the chat right now. L canceling for political purposes. Leffen manipulated the US elections. He's L canceling to left, therefore he is a leftist. Biden wants to take away L canceling. Pink Floyd court trial, yes. That's very good chat, very good.
controller improved capabilities such as dashback, shield drop, and 1.0. While it isn't talked about too much anymore, the Arduino is largely what paved the way for UCF. Even though I was banned from competing in Royal Flush, I was still going to go so that I could see people demo the Arduino for the first time. What I didn't know is that while I was working on the Arduino, Leffen had secretly been making arrangements with my engineer for an Arduino
here we
to be
go.
given to him at Royal.
Okay, get your fucking saddles on for this one. Get ready for this one, because this is where we start to get into some of the, like, dangerous psychotic level of this video. If anybody is showing signs of being a crazy person, once again, it's not necessarily Leffen. Let's listen.
Flush. My engineer had never told me this because he had no idea that Leffen was malicious. However, when I met up with my engineer at Royal Flush, he revealed to me that he'd be giving an Arduino to Leffen later that weekend. Once my engineer told me this, I literally...
So far, so good. I'm giving one to Leffen to take home. I began shaking him by the shoulders. Give me that Arduino back right now!
revealed to me that he'd be giving an Arduino to Leffen later that weekend. Once my engineer told me this, I literally began to shake him by his shoulders. He refused to believe me that we were being sabotaged. I still remember my engineer saying, "I'm sure he just wants to try it out."
Oh, I'm sure he just wants to try it out. What a naive viewpoint from a small man like you. This is ridiculous. You began to fucking shake this man and, like, froth at the mouth because your mortal enemy had your fucking, like, toy or whatever and you wanted it back.
As if
Good
Leffen was
God.
just another customer. I had to make it clear to my engineer that he didn't know who the fuck he was dealing with.
Literally
I then forced him to give
shaking.
me the Arduino back. The strategy Leffen employed here is called triangulation, also known as divide and conquer. This is a manipulation tactic that works by infiltrating a social circle as a third party who disrupts communications. Triangulation can be used to engineer rivalry between people or create confusion, which is what you just saw. We've already seen Leffen triangulate multiple times throughout this video, but this was probably his most strategic one yet, as it brought him close to seizing a device that played a role in legalizing the box. Later that day at Royal Flush, I found myself sitting next to Leffen in the Friendlies room. Armada, Mike Hayes, and Captain Smuckers were there as well. Between everything Leffen was doing, I had begun to reach my limits. I confronted Leffen about the fact that he'd been pumping out propaganda on YouTube.
Those videos you've been putting out are bullshit! Keep in mind, this is in the room, the Friendlies room. Leffen began screaming belligerently. He then ripped his controller out of the setup he was playing at and headed toward the exit door. So they're sitting there trying to play Smash Brothers together, and Hax just starts, like, shitting on him and... You talking some shit, motherfucker? Yeah, I heard you!
But the moment I did this, he started screaming belligerently to muffle my voice. Leffen then ripped his controller out of the setup he was playing at and started to walk toward the exit door as to avoid having the conversation with me.
Wow, I can't imagine why he would avoid you!
This got me heated since it showed that Leffen's only goal was to spread lies on social media, and so I screamed back at him to let him know that I knew exactly what he was doing.
I know exactly what you're doing, motherfucker! The Friendlies room, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly what he was doing. Leffen later retold this story as though I'd screamed at him for no reason, which has tricked people into thinking that I'm harassive toward Leffen. The same exact day, Leffen had the audacity.
You know, all I did was scream at him in the middle of the fucking Friendlies room for Smash Brothers. I don't know why people think that I'm harassing the guy. It's crazy!
To come back into the Friendlies room
Nonsense!
to ask me if he could have the Arduino. He'd found out that I'd taken it away from my engineer, and so he approached me with a smile and a polite voice. When Leffen did this, I told him to fuck off. Leffen then said, verbatim, that Arduino was supposed to be mine. I told him to fuck off again.
Leffen politely asks him to have the thing, and he's just like, "No, you can fuck off. Go away. No, not yet,
As Leffen angrily left the Friendlies room, I noticed that he had his phone out. I already knew what this meant, so I followed him out of the Friendlies room and into the hallway. I started to tell Leffen that I would have given him the Arduino if he had good intentions, but he didn't. He was still the same person he was back during Evidence.zip. The entire time I tried to talk to Leffen, he kept his face buried in his phone. He didn't even turn his head to look at me. He then began pacing away from me as he typed something. At first, I tried to keep up with Leffen, but he eventually began pacing so fast that I wasn't going to bother anymore.
He was running away from you and you kept following him! What the fuck, dude? How can you reasonably call him a stalker of you when you are following him and shouting at him at this fucking event? Holy God!
To let Leffen get away, I checked his Twitter account, and surely enough, I found a tweet that suggested that I'd done something wrong by not giving him the Arduino. Leffen had typed that tweet out right in front of my face as I tried to get his attention. Later that week, Leffen would also host streams that talked about how I hadn't given him an Arduino that was supposed to be his. This caused my engineer to realize that I was right about Leffen all along.
Yeah, I was right all along. Yeah.
Anti-Hbox propaganda during this time.
Propaganda!
All the videos were intended to fearmonger and spread misinformation.
Guys, notch controllers are fair, Kappa.
He would misconstrue several game mechanics and continue to challenge the fact that ergonomic controllers were even necessary. The lengths he was going to destroy me were unbelievable. Eventually, I couldn't take any more of Leffen's abuse. At Smash & Splash 3, I saw him lose to Zane, which was a major upset at the time. This led to me taking a shot at Leffen on Twitter. I called him out for losing despite the fact that he had notches, which he had constantly been misrepresenting in order to get the box banned. At first, Leffen didn't respond to my tweet for a while, but later that night, he blew things insanely out of proportion.
He blew things insanely out of proportion, chat. You need to listen to him.
Respond to my tweet for a while, but later that night, he blew things insanely out of proportion. Leffen posted
the fucking nerve of this man to say that about anyone ever!
Logs of a private conversation I had with
I'm pretty sure the Phil Marillion didn't blow shit out of proportion as much as you!
2016, in which I came to him with a confession. I'd been suffering from PTSD for 3 years at the time, and I needed help.
I have been suffering from PTSD due to this man's fucking Smash forum posts, everybody. I got PTSD due to the forum posts. I was literally shaking. Gamergate stepped on my stairs, Muffin. Tell someone who's been through a war that you're suffering from PTSD over the Smash forum. Tell a rape victim that you've been suffering from Smash forum related PTSD. You fucking drama queen.
PTSD resulted from the chronic harassment and stalking I'd been subject to in 2011 and 2012, and it had been causing me severe insomnia. The reason I used to have PTSD is because I didn't understand psychopathy back when I was a teenager, and so I didn't understand why someone was stalking me so obsessively. Apparently, when I gave Leffen this information, he viewed it as a way to stalk me again in the future while blackmailing me. It's still probably the most evil thing I've ever witnessed. After Leffen posted these logs, he tweeted that he had tried to be nice to me despite how terrible I'd been to him. I know it's hard to believe, but Leffen really did tweet that. Tons of people then told Leffen to take the logs down, so he did. However, when someone told Leffen...
Wait, hang on, I was listening, I was reading the chat, I'm sorry. What happened here?
After Leffen posted these logs, he tweeted that he had tried to be nice to me despite how terrible I'd been to him. I know it's hard to believe, but Leffen really did tweet that.
I know it's hard to believe. You know, like, okay, to be fair, it seems like they had this rivalry that started with Leffen being, like, a little bitch to him on forums. But whatever, he was 15. You would think that these two could have, like, had a private message with each other and just been like, hey man, listen, I was so-and-so age, and it's now fucking the future. Can we just, like, bury the hatchet, please? For all we know, that did happen. And this is still happening, regardless. Like, I don't know, man. It's so ridiculous to me that this fucking thing from 2011 is like the source of this stupid fucking video.
Lots of people then told Leffen to take the logs down, so he did. However, when someone told Leffen that he shouldn't have posted the logs under any circumstance, Leffen claimed victim status and told him that he couldn't take my harassment anymore. To be clear, I never harassed Leffen during this entire time period. I only ever confronted him because he was trying to end my career.
I only ever confronted him and chased after him when he was clearly running away from me. But I promise I didn't harass him.
The same person
Never.
then pressed Leffen about the fact that it still wasn't okay. This was when Leffen referred to me as his stalker. It's very important to realize that this was a projection, and that Leffen was openly confessing to the fact that he stalks me, just as he was confessing to several of his other flaws back when I showed you some of his other insults. After Leffen projected, he told the person that he was done speaking with them since they insisted on victim blaming. This interaction shows exactly why Evidence.zip urged the reader to understand that Leffen will always claim victim status, and that they need to be able to see through it. Less than a week after this all happened, I released my Arduino project to the general public. Leffen tweeted within a few hours to encourage people not to trust me, and to view my work as if it was research funded by a cigarette company. When I released lengthy box documentation a year later, Leffen made the exact same tweet. Ironically, my box documentation contained nothing but factual information. There was even a long chapter on 1.0 Cardinal, the mechanic that Leffen had spread.
Oh, I'm sure it was long as shit, bro,
banned.
I'm sure.
If not for Leffen, I never would have had to write this chapter, but I needed to debunk all the lies he'd been spreading. Leffen ultimately failed to ban the box, but his intentions were clear the whole way through. He wanted to remove me from the community at any cost, even if it meant banning a controller that thousands of people would end up needing. Looking back at it, Leffen's success would have been catastrophic. It would have cost so many players their careers.
Here we go, buddy, here we
Leffen's
go.
launched at me, there's been a common denominator. He doesn't give a shit about this community. When Leffen wants to defraud someone, he will do it no matter how much collateral damage it causes. So far, you've seen him overrun a free tournament series, teach people to—
Which you cancelled and stopped running so that you could see how he reacted or whatever crazy person shit. Don't stop pinning that on him!
the L canceled the wrong way, and convince people to desecrate their ergonomic controllers. 4 years prior to that, he tried to deny people the right to even use an ergonomic controller in the first place through blackmail and propaganda. Leffen was the only beneficiary in all of these situations.
By the way, shoutouts to Ash on the server who bought a copy of Shadow the Hedgehog, and apparently I'm racing him. I don't know, maybe we should stream that. That might be fun.
At this point, one of the biggest mysteries is surely how Leffen ever managed to attain hero status within the Smash community. He's done absolutely nothing heroic this far in the video, yet he somehow made people think this to be true of him. The way Leffen achieved hero status was through a series of political cons that would take place over the course of the next 3 years. This is because narcissists will strategically claim victim status and hero status in order to get ahead. Victim status, which you've already seen Leffen claim, allows the narcissist to evade accountability, while hero status allows the narcissist to mobilize people underneath them. But to obtain hero status, the narcissist must create a common enemy, which often comes at the expense of innocent people.
Step inside and hold on for dear life. That's a good tagline for this stream. Step inside and hold on for dear life. One of the many reasons to dislike Hungrybox. So here we get into the Hungrybox section of the stream, and I would just like to say, as we get into the Hungrybox section, apparently Emplemon reacted to noted YouTuber who I quite like, Emplemon, reacted to all of this by saying that it's basically like a content cop, which, I don't know, man, kinda not a great take. I don't know about that one. I wouldn't say this is like a content cop. I don't remember when Ian called Keemstar like a fucking Machiavellian Hitler, but, great videos, man. Love the one about the thing.
Leffen's usage of the common enemy strategy began in 2017 when he realized how good of a target Hungrybox was. Hbox's popularity had started to dip after the Big House 7 because of how much he'd been winning at the time, which made him vulnerable. Leffen had been knocked out of this tournament by Hbox, but you could tell from his post-game interview that he had nothing—
Someone says he might have been being— Wait, hang on. Oh, Weekend Warrior, welcome. I thought he was being sarcastic. I hope he was being sarcastic. I didn't see the tweet. I just saw Gabe mention it, and I was like, man, come on, Emplemon. Because I guess Emplemon made the video that was like in defense of Hungrybox, and I liked that video, but I guess that video had some shit to say about Leffen too, because Leffen's been kind of a dick to Hungrybox, which is kind of what we're about to get into here, but yeah, I don't know, I'm sure hoping that was just a joke, because, man, I don't know if he watched the whole thing. I don't know if he even watched up to the fucking 3.5 minute mark when the Hitler quote showed up, but I don't know.
good things to say about it.
Lacked focus, and in those moments, I just died every time, especially against Hungrybox. I played well overall, but then during edge cards and, like, when he just approached me with Pound, I would just, like, let up for a second, and then he destroys you. He's really amazing at, like, noticing your weak points and just instantly killing you for it.
Yeah, he's like real. Dude's reactions are crazy.
Yeah.
It's like there was one moment.
Notice that Leffen's pointing out how good Hungrybox is at noticing weak points. That's because Leffen is also good at noticing weak points as a high mock sociopathic fuckopath dictator.
You just like this.
People still seem to think that the Leffen Hbox beef was just some run-of-the-mill beef, but there was so much more to it than that. The Leffen Hbox beef was a calculated attempt
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
to end Hbox's career that took place right in front of everybody's eyes. It would also cause extreme damage to the community, as Leffen's cons usually do. I was able to recognize that all of this would happen from the start, having been on Leffen's hit list for years. The problem was that nobody else did. What you need to know is
nobody sees it but me! I'm the only one who knows of the four-dimensional time cube Earth days!
It's like Leffen are opportunists who recognize that the right circumstances need to be there before they can pounce on someone. You saw this earlier when Leffen pounced on the box's legality after years of lying in wait. As for the Leffen Hbox beef, what happened here was Leffen decided that if he couldn't beat Hbox, then a viable way to dispose of him was to destroy his reputation and push him out of the community.
Yeah, he's saying this, but as one chat member points out, it seemed in that clip like Leffen was, in fact, complimenting Hungrybox. As far as I could tell, he was just saying that he's a very good player and he's really good at noticing, like, other players' weaknesses. That seems like a compliment to me among, like, competitive players or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure it was an underhanded fucking five-head play from Leffen, in part of his Machiavellian totalitarian tiptoe. But I don't know, man.
Most people would never consider such an immoral strategy, but the Machiavellian viewpoint is different. Hbox's dip in popularity would allow Leffen to inflict serious mental damage by convincing people that he was the enemy. This would also heroize Leffen in addition to increasing his market share. From Leffen's perspective, it was arguably better than doing things the normal way. Because I had just had my controller's legality conned by Leffen for an entire year, I knew exactly why Hbox was being targeted at this juncture. Like I said, the first reason was his dip in popularity. Leffen is an opportunist who knows that the right circumstances need to be there, which they were. The second reason was envy. Just as Leffen never liked me because of the fact that I had respected melee opinions, he couldn't stand the fact that Hbox was in his way. And lastly, the third reason was blackmail. Leffen had been blackmailing people ever since the days of Evidence.zip, and we
Once again, say it with me now, chat. This is the game with pokey floats. This is the whole drama about the blackmail and envy and all of that. Pokey floats. Just keep it in mind.
all saw how he blackmailed me during the box legality process. In this case, Leffen's blackmail was the little-known fact that Hbox had cheated on his girlfriend. Everyone would find out about this a few years later, but at the time, not too many people knew about it, and we can assume Hbox would have preferred to keep things that way. A few weeks after the Big House 7, Leffen's con began when he abruptly decided that Hbox was killing Melee. The same person who called Leffen out just a few months earlier for blackmailing me pointed out how much of a U-turn this was from everything Leffen had said about Hbox in the past, including during Leffen's Big House 7 interview. I quickly saw how personal things were getting when Leffen tweeted that Hbox is a miserable person and that everyone has a story of Hbox being shitty toward them just a few days later. Leffen obviously had no business saying these things given how he's treated people, but by now you should know that there's no consistency among the things that Leffen said.
This is like getting to the point where I just want to skip shit because it's like, Leffen's bad, he's mean, he's... But this is one of those videos where you might want to skip around because it's a little boring, but you also never know when he's gonna say something that's like fucking 10 out of 10 crazy, so you gotta just keep watching the whole thing.
Furthermore, neither of Leffen's statements about Hbox were true. Having been a part of Evidence.zip, I started to become very worried about where this was headed. A few days after Leffen's tweets, the tournament Summit 5 was held in California. Leffen, Hbox, and I were all in attendance at this tournament. Hbox has been a close friend of mine for many years, so I confronted Leffen on the very first day of Summit 5 to try to defuse their beef, but it was no use. I knew that Hbox was being blackmailed, so I repeatedly told Leffen that Hbox's sex life wasn't his business. I also made it clear to Leffen that Hbox wasn't the only person guilty of cheating, and that Leffen would be a hypocrite if he continued to go after Hbox specifically. Leffen blatantly didn't care about any of this. He spoke to me in a deadpan expression the entire time, and gave me responses that kept the conversation going in circles. I left Summit 5 knowing that Leffen was dead set on ruining Hbox. As soon as we all got home from Summit 5, Leffen continued to spread rumors about Hbox and misrepresent the way other pro players viewed him. When Hbox got fed up and defended himself, Leffen immediately signaled to him that he was being blackmailed. This blackmail would keep Hbox silent for the remainder of the feud. In December 2017, Leffen posted a video of himself stabbing a pancake that had a green Jigglypuff drawn on it. This video tells you that Leffen desperately...
Fucking... What? No, go back to that one. Hang on. Hold on. Just...
himself stabbing a pancake that had a green Jigglypuff drawn on it. This video tells you that Leffen desperately wanted to get rid of Hbox. It's identical to when he bought a red Adidas shirt shortly after losing to me at Genesis. Stalking and smear campaigning represents the highest level of desperation on the psychopath's end, and it's exactly what Leffen did in both of these situations. A month later, Leffen released propaganda in the form of a video called One of the Many Reasons to Dislike Hbox. The video depicted Hbox as the devil and received about 400,000 views. Unfortunately, not nearly enough people realized how malicious this video was. Within the video, an up-and-coming player named Snowy tells a story about how Hbox had been rude to him when they met.
Yeah, chat. I don't blame you for not thinking that that looks anything at all like a fucking pancake. Apparently people in chat are saying it's like an okonomiyaki or something, sounds Japanese, but yeah, not actually a pancake. Doesn't look like a pancake, doesn't really look much like Jigglypuff. If anything, it looks like Kirby. But yeah, clearly a sociopath, clearly a monster. He's stabbing Jigglypuff. Sure.
Yeah, the first time I met him, I asked him for a best of $5 Puff Ditto, and when he found out that I was a Puff, he went his secondaries, he took 2 games, and then after the second game, he was like, alright, I don't want to keep playing, and he takes my money, he walks away, and I was wearing the Hbox shirt that he made, like the one with the Q.
No!
Yeah, and he says to me, nice shirt, and he leaves. It was.
Are you? No, there's no way.
Yeah, no. I had my friend there. I can. My friend will be here tomorrow.
Okay, so Hungry Box is also a giant fucking baby bitch lad. Wow, everybody in the Smash community just seems like a fucking weird, just a weird, bizarre person you wouldn't want to sit next to on the bus. That's my ultimate takeaway. Fucking Hacks, Hungry Box, Leffen, they're all just like bizarre people. Either they're pedophiles or they're like fucking nothing wrong with me.
No, like it was
Dude, this is like a villain story.
No.
Guys, join the resistance.
Not only is the thought of Leffen accusing anyone of being mean toward new players comical, but if you actually look into how Leffen treated Snowy behind the scenes, it becomes clear that Snowy was used. On July 19, 2018, Leffen referred to Snowy as his slave, and on February 7, 2019, Leffen looked to silence Snowy for speaking positively about Jigglypuff. When Snowy tried to defend himself, Leffen accused Snowy of lying. Snowy could also be seen begging Leffen to not influence the community to ban his character. I would end up...
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I just don't have that, fifth dimensional head brain strategic thinking, but like, it just looks like a guy talking on Twitter to me. I don't know. Maybe I just don't see it, but like, what are you on? Yeah, that's him trying to silence fucking what's his name. Yeah. Absolutely. You got it.
Meeting Snowy at a tournament called Don't Park on the Grass that took place at the end of 2018.
Go
I
touch the
Snowy
grass!
About the video he starred in, and he told me that he never really meant what he said about Hbox. Snowy was mostly starstruck by the chance to hang out with Leffen, and wanted to impress him. Snowy also told me that Leffen was highly abusive toward him, and would repeatedly call him retarded off camera. When I asked Snowy why he would take Leffen's abuse, he told me that being friends with Leffen gave him opportunities, and that it let him talk to other top players in the scene. There's a term called flying monkeys, also known as abuse by proxy, that describes
flying monkeys. Yeah, I guess this describes Dream's fan base pretty well. Flying monkeys, yeah.
Everything you just witnessed. Abuse by proxy is when a narcissistic abuser exploits another person to carry out their agenda, such as launching a smear campaign. Snowy was valuable for Leffen in this case because he gave credibility to Leffen's smear campaign, but after that, he wasn't needed. The reality is that narcissists don't value their proxies as human beings whatsoever, and will typically dump them after there's no longer a good reason to maintain the relationship. As you can tell by now, the Leffen Hbox situation never made any sense. It was pot calling the kettle black. The most malicious person in the entire community had made up a narrative that someone else was an abuser, and people believed it. As 2018 went on, Leffen continued to do things like censor Hbox's name in his Twitch chat and misrepresent their in-person interactions. When Leffen claimed that Hbox begged him to be unblocked on Twitter, for example, I happen to know that Hbox politely asked Leffen to settle their beef. Leffen then went and rephrased this in the most vindictive way possible.
And tell me about the set history between these two, Scar.
So Leffen versus Hbox has actually been, they have had a long rivalry, and it's gotten a bit personal at times.
It has
These
gotten
guys
a
do
little
not
bit
like
personal.
each other. They don't, kind of oil and water a little bit.
Leffen frequently tweets about, you know, such and such, like, I can't believe this terrible human being. He doesn't say terrible, you know, player, he says terrible human being.
Yeah, it's gotten to that level.
It's gotten to that level. Is killing the game that I love, you know, Leffen's maybe a little bit melodramatic about it, but...
I can't wait to get copyright struck by fucking Evo as well as Banjo-Kazooie and Blind Guardian. It's gonna
a little, but that's what we like about him.
The false narrative that Hbox is a deplorable person eventually made its way to commentary slots and news outlets such as ESPN. You can tell from the way Scar and Toph spoke about Leffen that inciting mass hatred was a part of his brand at this point, and that the community would condone it too. Unfortunately, the average viewer wouldn't have seen things this way. These broadcasts alone probably brainwashed thousands of people into believing that Leffen was the hero.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna borrow a couple messages in chat and just echo them, and I'm gonna say, have you, Hacks and Leffen, have you tried just like raw butt fucking? Because I feel like that might fix some of your problems. I don't know.
A week later at Super Smash Con, the social isolation that was destined to come for Hbox had finally begun to manifest. The rank 1 player in the world was rapidly losing his support network, and he was starting to crack. There to capitalize on the situation was none other than Leffen, who subtly encouraged people to deal the finishing blow. Like I said earlier, this was all a calculated attempt to end Hbox's career, and it damn near succeeded. To show you how stealthy the manipulation that took place right in front of you was, let's juxtapose Genesis 5 and Genesis 6. At Genesis 5, which took place in 2018, Leffen gaslit Hbox by refusing to give him a handshake after both of their sets. This was intended to push the narrative that Hbox is horrible.
Wait, no, that's not what gaslighting is. You don't know what that word means, do you? Oh, he gaslit him by not shaking his hand. And then after that, he blackmailed him by shitting in his cornflakes. Like, what? That's not what it means.
Hbox can't be blamed at all for his reaction to it happening the first time, as he didn't deserve any of this. However, evoking that type of a reaction was all part of Leffen's plan.
Oh, man. And a down smash from Hungrybox. Really solid 3.
Do you think YouTube would get mad at me if I tag this stream with #pride? I don't know.
Go for it, man. We will move on.
This is the greatest love story of our time.
Winners finals. That was for winners finals. Yep. Oh boy. Yeah. No. Hey.
Hungrybox sitting clean as usual.
That's not a good stunt.
What's happening?
A year later at Genesis 6, and the aftermath of Leffen's behavior was clear as day. Several competitors tweeted in good faith to let the community know that this type of hatred was unacceptable. However, there was a snake in the grass among them. After an entire year of spearheading the movement against Hbox, Leffen trapdoored his way out of the chaos he created in order to boost his reputation.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened. It's not that he was thinking like, you know, yeah, crowds shouldn't be immature and chant like anti one guy or whatever. No, it couldn't possibly be that Leffen is a little more mature than me, the man who made a fucking 2.5-hour video about how shit he is. No, that cannot be it. It's secret programming and propaganda and coded back language. Ugh.
Hardly anyone called fraud on Leffen's tweet either, but Hbox's mother sure did. And the fact that she of all people called fraud tells you everything you need to know. People don't realize this, but Leffen is the real reason Hbox had a crab thrown at him at Pound 2019. Leffen incited violence without ever directly inciting violence. He puppeteered the Hbox con from start to finish, and not enough people connected the dots. When Leffen told the crowd to roar, they roared, and when Leffen told the crowd to sit, they sat. The most incredible part
You're right, chat member, Leffen is the imposter.
That Leffen ended up leveraging all of this into a hero narrative. The community either never realized how Leffen had mobilized them, or never had the courage to speak up against it, and so they accepted his hatred as the new normal.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that most people don't lack courage to speak out against some guy on the internet. That might actually just be you. That had some problem with that. I don't think most people care, but go on. One more sin to the list, yes. List of charges. You know, the word sins is funnier, but charges is actually stupider because it's like charges means you're like, these are like legal, like being charged with a crime. But it's literally just like, he didn't like my button inputs and he said some things about a guy. Jail, please! I will take 1 jail, please! Sounds like a really shitty community. Well, I mean, yeah, you said it, not me.
Years of research is probably the con I'll catch the most flack for defending, but there's so much worth talking about here in terms of political angles that were never considered. When people look back at years of research, they don't seem to remember it correctly, so I want to share a different perspective. On December 7th, 2018, a new Smash title would come out, which presented Leffen with yet another huge opportunity. Realizing how easy it had been to craft a hero narrative within the Melee community, Leffen would now repeat the process within the Ultimate community. Any other content creator would have simply created content to profit off the release of a new Smash title, but Leffen is always willing to take things a step further, and so what he needed was a new hero narrative. Because hero narratives always come at someone else's downfall, Leffen needed to pick a target.
Sure.
You're absolutely not supposed to say what I'm about to tell you, but Salem was conned by Leffen. I discussed this with MeToo last year.
Oh, damn, I can't believe you did it.
Salem
You did
went
it
on
to
say
him.
things about the Melee community that couldn't be defended, as M2K put it. M2K and I agreed that Salem was just a nerd who'd been bullied, and said things they probably didn't mean. They became part of Leffen's political agenda when Leffen started harassing them about their opinions on Ultimate with the intention of vilifying someone. None of the arguments Leffen made about Snake being a bad character would end up being correct, but that wasn't the point.
I mean,
Leffen needed
Snake
to trigger
kind of
someone
is a
quickly,
bad
and he would end up
character,
doing just
though.
that. After
Well,
Salem
that's
posted
fine.
years of research, they ended up losing their entire reputation over the course of 2 days. Normally, I wouldn't have listed Leffen's beef with Salem as a charge against Leffen, but you have to realize that we're now going on the 7th person whose career Leffen has looked to ruin. This is factoring in Chillin, who I put in the same category
Are
as
you
Snake.
sure he looked to ruin his career? Are you sure he didn't just have an opinion on Twitter? Are you sure? Go back over that one and think about it again, and just tell me if you're really sure about it.
Chillin and Salem weren't necessarily Leffen's political adversaries, but they were still instrumental in Leffen's ascension. Leffen's beef with Chillin was to instill fear and get sponsored more quickly, while his beef with Salem was to milk the Ultimate community of its resources. Salem actually referenced this in years of research when they said that there were people who were only interested in profiting off of Ultimate. Salem also pointed out that Leffen's fan base grows alongside his malicious intent, which is completely accurate. Years of research had all sorts of other problems, though, so these things
Every time a bell rings, one of Leffen's fans gets a hate boner.
got overlooked. A few months later, Salem lost their sponsor, and Leffen was there to celebrate. By that point, everyone had forgotten that Leffen instigated this beef in the first place, which just goes to show how effective it is to unite people against a common enemy. When Leffen beat Salem half a year later at Super Smash Con, a sea of onlookers watched in awe as the supervillain of Ultimate was defeated. But what they didn't realize was that the real villain had just won. Watching this clip of the crowd is terrifying once you realize that Leffen was the mastermind here, and that Salem was nothing more than a scapegoat so that Leffen could mobilize.
Guy, stop watching anime. Officially stop watching anime. Is that Pat?
These people. The situation was so one-sided that even Hbox had no choice but to participate in it, despite being vilified by Leffen the year before. Leffen could have picked anyone as his target.
Look at this man smiling in the middle of the crowd. I can't believe how horribly victimized he's been by Leffen.
Despite being vilified by Leffen the year before. Leffen could have picked anyone as his target in this situation, but I'm almost positive I know why he picked Salem. If you look at who won EVO titles for Smash in the Mandalay Bay, the most recent winner at the time was Leffen. Before that, you had Hbox, who Leffen had already gone after, and then you had Salem. When you consider the fact that Leffen has a god complex and will target people for trivial reasons like these, it makes perfect sense. Leffen may very well have taken offense to the fact that Salem once stepped foot on the same stage as him, and so he wanted to make it clear that only he was worthy of that stage. This is obviously nothing more than a theory, but it's something to keep in mind.
Most of this video is nothing more than a theory, one of the conspiracy farms.
The main reason I bring up the Salem feud is because it shows that certain patterns are being repeated, and those patterns are less innocent than people think. Within less than a year, Leffen vilified 2 different people in order to attain hero status and climb the social ladder. Hbox was a political adversary who Leffen weakened, while Salem was a scapegoat for Leffen to mobilize people underneath him. Regardless of where you stand on these feuds, there's no denying that each of them served a purpose. Both times, Leffen was able to control crowds and walk away as the beneficiary
Because I'm
without
scared
anybody
of their
realizing. The point is that
controlling
there is a political
crowds.
agenda, and soon you'll know why that agenda will spell the end of this community.
The end of the community. Oh my good lord. Good God.
Up until now, I've shown you that Leffen will approach every situation with the most profitable political angle he can come up with. He undeniably has a dark triad mentality that believes in exploiting others in order to ascend. But sometimes, exploiting others doesn't mean feuding with people. Depending on the situation, it may be appropriate to become a social justice activist overnight.
Oh boy, it's time.
Following the Hbox and Salem feuds, Leffen had begun to transition from a villain to an anti-hero in the eyes of the community. The days of Evidence.zip were over, not that anyone knew what Evidence.zip was to begin with. After saving Smash from 2 separate problems that he created, Leffen was starting to be perceived as a role model, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Last summer, the Smash community witnessed its darkest point when it found out that many of its own were sexual predators. People didn't know what to believe when the victims first started coming out, but before you knew it, the whole world was watching.
Okay, so now I would like to point out, for those of you who have been mentioning the Smash pedos and whatnot, yes, that's a very real thing to bring up and a good point, because this is a community with actual predators and weird people abusing their power, and yet without a fucking blink of an eye, hacks will sit here and say that because this man was mean to him on a forum 10 years ago, that he is as bad, if not worse, than the confirmed criminals. Let's proceed.
Unfortunately, if there's anything last summer proved, it's that the Smash community is twice as naive as it thought it was. This is because, just as sexual predators can live among us, the Dark Triad can live among us too.
Guys, he's making me watch the hacks video about Leffen. Guys, Leffen is cancelled. Why would he make me watch the video from... I'm sorry. Go sub to Arcade Craniacs. They deserve
Sexual
it.
predators can live among us. The Dark Triad can live among us too. People fail to realize how profitable a MeToo movement is from a business perspective. Most of us would never imagine that someone could be cold enough to view things this way.
Time for
and
the
that sadly
real red
allows
pill.
the Dark Triad to gain the upper hand. The truth is, you should always be skeptical about the people who rush to the podium in these types of situations, especially when you consider how well suited the Dark Triad traits are for it. By taking the helm of a MeToo movement, narcissism is rewarded in the form of worldwide acclaim. Psychopathy allows one to remain unemotional throughout the whole process.
Yeah, you know, we joke about Sus and Among Us. The whole chat has turned into Among Us. But, yeah, I mean, again, he wants to talk about narcissism and sociopathy, and meanwhile, he's talking about actual confirmed predators, and he's using the Among Us fucking imposter. Like, good God. That's like using Comic Sans on a fucking notice about a funeral. Like, you couldn't get more out of place than that.
And Machiavellianism allows one to take advantage of the scattered masses who need a leader. It's the perfect opportunity.
Hacks is the QAnon of Smash? I don't know.
So far, I've explained how Dark Triads
Interesting
strategically
theory.
claim victim status and hero status in order to manipulate people. There's only one better status to claim than either of these, and it's called virtuous victimhood. This refers to when victim status and hero status are combined. Virtuous victimhood is the strongest signal one can emit because it combines the sympathy of victim status with the admiration of hero status, making it ideal for leeching resources. Virtuous victimhood can't be signaled in every situation, but it can certainly be signaled during a MeToo movement. A Dark Triad is able to emerge as someone who can resonate with victims while also coming across as a leader who victims should stand behind.
So this is a really fucked up part of the video where he's basically saying that he is manipulating the community during the time of like fucking predators and pedos being outed, and all for his own personal gain. He doesn't mean any of the things he's saying, guys. He's just trying to manipulate you. Don't listen to him. Like, I don't know. Again, I think this Leffen guy seems like a bit of a bitch, but that being said, it seems really weird to do this to the guy. Be like, oh yeah, he was totally lying when he said he stands behind victims or whatever.
This is why it was never a matter of if Leffen would show up, but rather a matter of when. Surely enough, Leffen would begin tweeting frequently on June 28th. The tweets he made over the course of the next few weeks gave victims hope and empowerment, and caused him to become the community's beacon. Leffen's actions were showered with praise by community leaders, and not a soul stopped to question his intentions.
Not a soul stopped to wonder if this man speaking out against predators might have been... What can you hear yourself? How does this video still have this good of a like ratio? It should be down here. It should be closer to the Susan video. What the fuck?
His ability to take the helm of MeToo so easily despite his dark past made me realize how wide the gap between perception and reality is within this community.
Again, just such a complete narcissistic view of like, no, it has to be about him and his upset. He's trying to do it to get leverage so that he can take me down and all of his dissenters. And it's like, there are actual victims here, and you're doing this. Do you have any self-awareness?
The situation was worse than I thought. If you listen closely to what Leffen says in this clip that Rishi tweeted, you'll start to realize that something went wrong here.
Yeah, I also agree that saying you stan, while I appreciate it if it's about me, I still think it's bad. You should hold me accountable. If I'm not entertaining, if I'm not doing shit like that, then don't fucking follow me. Don't watch me. I'm not your friend. I'm an entertainer. I'm a pro player. You shouldn't assume that I am a...
Is he playing Redvox? Yeah, you're really making me hate Leffen while he sits there playing Redvox in the background. Yeah, what an asshole, honestly.
Top. Just because I'm a top player, that I'm a top person, that I'm a great person, because you don't know me. It is very easy as a streamer to do your bad shit during the hours you don't stream.
By July 2nd, the number
of master manipulator piece of shit
allegations had begun to ramp up, and so Leffen made a YouTube video in which he discussed the situation. He also made a second video on July 15th. These videos received over 1 million hits combined. I'll play a couple of quotes.
And meanwhile, this guy's video is sitting at 200,000 on his channel with only 27,000 subs. Yeah. I do wonder if some level of just like envy over his like higher status might be partially what this video is about. Like, well, I beat you this time, so I should have more viewers or something like that. Not sure, but that feels like it might be a part of it.
From them that I've selected.
The people these people hurt don't deserve to just be a summary and just to be like, these people overall have been abused.
Do I do bad shit when I'm not streaming? Yes, sometimes I play arcade games.
That's right. So I'm not going to try to do that here. People know
Sometimes when I do the laundry, I draw dicks on the little chalkboard where I'm supposed to say how long I've been using the machine. I'm a bad boy, okay?
The Evidence.zip, and although I do not think that was deserved, like being banned for it, I do definitely agree that I acted like a fucking jerk, and that I need to do I need to be much better going forward.
You can do better, bro.
Some people in this community, whether you like it or not, have some kind of power, whether it's being a top player, a TO, a just community figure, whatever it is. Heck, man, all it seems to take now is that, like, it really does seem like people just take whatever they can and just use it to either abuse, blackmail, or try to hide what they have done. I have no doubt that we will be seeing more stories come out, and I am incredibly proud of everyone for speaking out.
I don't know. I feel like he's pretty genuine here. I'm gonna skip ahead because it's really just him, you know, continuing to be sounding like a fairly decent guy. He says he believes all victims, which is kind of stupid, but you know, that's believe people if they have like proof or whatever, but you know.
I know many people have struggled with the same feelings.
With the information we have, none of these quotes make any sense coming from Leffen. The first quote is a projection because Leffen states that he won't summarize victims, then proceeds to summarize Evidence.zip in about 10 seconds. As we know, Evidence.zip deserves much more time than that.
Guys, I worked on Evidence.zip, so therefore you need to talk about Evidence.zip, okay? You know, the more we get through this video, the more it seems like, again, it's just this guy being like, it's just this guy being like so like obsessed over this thing that he helped to do like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, he was one of the guys, the main mans, the guys who managed to get Leffen banned. And now he feels like he needs to do it again because that's like the biggest thing he's ever done in his life. And he keeps bringing up this stupid fucking evidence thing as if it's like, as if it even matters. Like, who cares? Again, he was literally like 15 when when those forum posts were being made. If I looked at Evidence.zip now and it's just a bunch of fucking posts of him being like, Lamau, you're a scrub. Who cares? Do you really? Am I supposed to give a shit? He made fucking NG forum posts 10 years ago. Guys, lock him up. Throw away the fucking key! But this guy keeps bringing up this stupid Evidence.zip and trying to, like, invoke its name as if anybody gives a good goddamn.
Similarly, the second quote is a projection because Leffen is regularly abusive and has used blackmail as one of his go-to strategies throughout his career. The third quote is also a projection because Leffen knows that he himself is aware of causing several people's mental health to decline. The fourth quote is a projection as well because after Leffen was banned for Evidence.zip, he issued a fake apology that manipulated North Americans and the media. And finally, the fifth quote is a projection because we have Leffen on record for leeching money and fame from the Smash community on several occasions, including this one. These quotes aren't the focal points of Leffen's video.
He's leeching money by saying that he doesn't support pedophilia. Wow, amazing. I didn't know it was that easy.
They're just scattered ones I wanted to show you. The focal point of Leffen's video is actually a victim testimony in which he talks about a road trip he took when he was younger in which he was allegedly physically abused. Before we listen to Leffen's testimony,
allegedly physically abused, everybody,
I want to show you something he prefaces it with.
That said, though, I do think in general, you know, as a general, you need to believe victims, especially if they don't have a very credible reason to lie. And even then, I generally think you should start out by believing them.
What Leffen just said is highly manipulative. By saying this, he conditions you to believe victims, which is horrible advice since victims can be just as deceptive as abusers.
Okay, that's incredibly stupid. The reason that you don't just believe, like, hashtag yes all victims or whatever, the reason you don't believe them is because a lot of the time they might not actually be victims of anything and they might just be trying to, like, cancel somebody. But it's not that if they are victims, they might also be abusive or some crazy shit. Complete misrepresentation. Add that to your list of charges, my man. Let's hear that again.
Start out by believing them.
What Leffen just said is highly manipulative. By saying this, he conditions you to believe victims, which is horrible advice since victims can be just as deceptive as abusers.
No, if somebody's an actual victim, you should probably believe whatever they're saying if they have some kind of, like, actual proof of that, but it's not that, hey, sometimes victims are actually, I don't know, I guess it's a semantic thing, but it's just like, wow, you totally got that backwards. Good job.
A few minutes later, Leffen gives his victim testimony. Please listen to all of it very closely.
When I was, before I was banned, I went to my first tournament over in the United States. And I've told this story many times before, so I'm not going to go into great detail about it. But as a 16-year-old, I went there, traveled with an RV around California and the nearby states for about 2 weeks, and there were about 10 people in that RV, so it was a lot of people, many people adults. And during this time, there was one particular player that physically abused me, like basically slapped me extremely hard across the face several times over basically nothing. I sat in his seat. I was playing Smash and he wanted to go to sleep. His alarm didn't wake him up.
So, I'm gonna skip past this because it's, you know, not really necessary to listen to all of it. Apparently, it proves that he's a big stinky poo-poo liar. But basically, the main thing that Hacks is going to try to call him on is the claim that he got slapped like 8 times or something. And he's gonna run with this and go back to forum well, just watch.
And no
honestly.
one really said anything.
In Leffen's video, he states that he was slapped 8 times, but on April 29, 2012, Leffen told this exact same story on Smashboards, and he stated that he was only slapped once. This means that Leffen modified the story in order to make it sound like more of an assault.
Guys, Leffen's trying to be a fake victim. Literally. This man is now jumping to forum posts from 10 years ago to be like, no, back then you said you only got hit once. Bullshit, lies. Periodic reminder. Pokey floats. All of this insanity is happening over pokey floats. Good God.
When I heard Leffen's new testimony, I reached out to some of the Swedes who I happened to know were on this road trip, which took place during the weeks leading up to Genesis 2. The first Swede I reached out to told me that they knew Leffen was slapped once, and that they remembered Leffen telling them that he was slapped a second time, but that 8 times was definitely a lie. The next Swede I reached out to was Armada. Armada said the exact same thing, which is that a second slap may have happened, but that 8 was clearly a lie. Armada added that Leffen had been telling a botched version of this story 6 to 8 weeks earlier on his stream. The next piece of evidence is a testimony that was written over 8 years ago. Earlier on in this video, I showed you excerpts from Evidence.zip,
So this is the part where he brings up the guy who, like, the third testimony or whatever of this guy who says that, like, I think it says he was the one that smacked him or whatever. I'm not going through all of this. It would take me forever to account for all of the times I've seen Leffen acting out viciously against his prospects. So I'm only going to account for the timeline revolving around the Genesis trip. Again, he was a teenager. You know, when I was a teenager, I used to go grab a stick and whack trees. Just like whack the leaves off of trees. Like, I was a fucking weird kid, you know? Like, people grow up. I don't know. There's a road trip. These failed attempts to break me. So, is this... Yeah, this is basically saying this guy, like... Well, let me read some of this. Immediately starts attacking me verbally with all sorts of nonsense, seemingly doing everything he could to instigate a situation that would keep us distracted and stalled instead of getting ready to leave. Leffen, determined to his cause, proceeded to continue his blabbering whilst physically blocking me. I make my very best effort to reach through to him in a reasonable manner, but after several attempts, it gets obvious he isn't going to back down. He knows this is the time to push all of his chips in. Good, like, fucking anime girl music in the background. I'm pretty sure, but not totally certain, that this is basically him saying that he's the one that smacked Leffen. It's kind of unimportant. It's whatever. I'm your little butterfly. Yeah, so, again, Leffen bad because Leffen lies about being a victim. This guy, whatever, has some testimony. I'm sure it's super damning. But again, like, I'm not here to put Leffen on trial necessarily. You know, for all I know, again, everything he's saying about Leffen might be on some level legitimate. He might be on the right track, but my god, is he doing a very fucking poor job of making people believe that. He has taken all of the focus off of whatever it is he's trying to accuse Leffen of and just made himself look like some kind of fucking madman shrieking in the streets about government conspiracy chips and Frankenstein gangster computer gods.
Truthful in his 2020 testimony, but that shouldn't surprise you by this point. Not only was Leffen's testimony filled with several misrepresentations, but he actually seems to have been the abuser in this situation. This past March, I contacted C to ask him if he'd seen what Leffen said about him last summer. C took a moment to watch Leffen's video, then explained that this was a standard victim narrative from Leffen. C also clarified that he had slapped Leffen once in response to extreme harassment. Leffen had tried to sabotage their hike in several ways, as well as the atmosphere of the entire trip. This was after C fought for Leffen to be
Guys, it was all Leffen's fault. Everything was Leffen's fault.
Included on the trip in the first place. While C didn't approve of what he did, he also couldn't say he overreacted, all things considered. C commented that Leffen is highly manipulative and sociopathic when it comes to these things. To add validity to what C is saying, you should know that dark triads will go out of their way to sabotage people's goals, which can include trips and vacations. The way C described Leffen socially isolating him throughout the trip is one-to-one with what this article says. C pointed out that several smaller details within Leffen's testimony were also lies, and that Leffen had been spreading these exact same lies for years. For example, C had borrowed $600 for this trip, which Leffen rephrased as C stealing thousands of dollars. C had also offered to share a pizza with Leffen, which Leffen rephrased as C trying to force Leffen to buy a pizza for him. C then clarified that Leffen had jammed a plane seat into his knee twice on the flight home, which caused C knee pain for weeks. Leffen ignored C's initial request not to do this again, which is—
Guys, Leffen hurt his knee! Leffen literally stepped on C's stair muffin, and that's why this has all occurred.
Why C slapped him a second time. Leffen left this part of the story out of his video. From there, our conversation shifted to the fact that Leffen has caused people like me and Hbox insane amounts of damage with lies in recent years. C wasn't surprised to hear this. He said that people should have known that Leffen is a pathological liar by now. I then brought up the fact that on top of everything else Leffen's done, hijacking a MeToo movement isn't a joke, and that Leffen turned out to be an actual threat to society just like Evidence.zip prophesized. C agreed, adding that Leffen potentially deserves to be in jail, seeing as how he tries to ruin other people's lives and reputations.
He's a menace!
I'm inclined to agree with C here for anyone wondering.
Put him behind bars!
C then explained that Leffen wants to dehumanize people and get people to view them as though they don't deserve empathy, just as
What do you mean by the Nazi German part? Guys, what did he mean by that?
minority groups were viewed in the past. According to C, Leffen will do anything to acquire influence, and wants people to join in on his agenda of treating people without any remorse. I then raised the possibility that Leffen studied totalitarian handbooks such as Mein Kampf.
The reason I ask is because I have this bad feeling that Leffen studied literature like Mein Kampf. Literally, Mein Kampf! Chat, this man is saying that this guy studied fucking Mein Kampf, this fellow Smash Brothers player. I can't believe this. I cannot believe this is legitimate. You have to be joking. Please say psych. Please. This is unbelievable. Holy shit.
Since he had to have learned this from somewhere. C agreed that it was possible. Then he pointed me toward the teachings of Edward Bernays,
Pokey floats!
Austrian-American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda. He described the masses as irrational and subject to herd instinct, and outlined how skilled practitioners could use crowd psychology to control them in desirable ways.
There's this saying that I like, that is, all it takes for evil people to succeed is for good people to do nothing. And I really do think that's true. In my opinion, the world is not filled of majority evil people. I think that's something that people tell themselves.
Okay, who the fuck is by the way, who is Edward Bernays? This guy was talking about Edward Bernays, Austrian-American pioneer in the field of public relations. Okay, so was he a Nazi? He describes the masses as irrational and subject to— I don't know, I just heard this guy bring up this other dude, and I'm just like, is this another David Icke? Is this another guy who rants on the internet about aliens?
It's true.
I don't know.
In my opinion, the world is not filled of majority evil people. I think that's something that people tell themselves in order to kind of put blame away from themselves, that they couldn't have done anything, everyone's bad, and if I'm bad, you know, I'm just part of the majority. I really do think that the majority of people are either decent or good. However, many good and decent people do not do enough, myself included.
Back when you heard Leffen say that, you probably thought he was speaking from the good guy's perspective. He wasn't. He was telling you how easy it is for him to exploit the people of the Smash community.
Oh my god, this is fucking disturbed, man. This is disturbed. Get some fucking help. I don't know. Am I the only one who doesn't fucking see it? Like, yeah, maybe this guy's a dipshit, whatever. Whatever. It's clear that he's not a fucking master manipulator when he's sitting here talking about, like,
myself included,
you know, people need to do better or whatever. No, he's not playing a double negative fucking chess wizard master move, okay? Every word that he said, this is not Death Note. This is not a master fucking intellect trying to, like, fucking persuade the world. This is just a guy who wakes up in the morning, takes a shit, gets out of bed, scratches his balls, plays Smash, and tweets a little bit. And maybe he's an asshole. Whatever.
Back when you heard Leffen say for him to exploit the people of the Smash community. This might be tough to process, but Leffen didn't mean a word he said to any of you last summer. His involvement with MeToo was a facade, just like his hero status is. Leffen got involved with MeToo.
Again, this is defamation. This is just what defamation is. You're literally saying he tried to pretend to be like a MeToo supporter or whatever to fucking... Oh my god. You know, Elisa won't have a case if she tries to sue me, but Leffen will have a case if he tries to sue this guy. That's all I'm saying.
In order to draw a crowd and mobilize it underneath him, just as he's done several times before.
One more sin to the total. You guys keeping count? You should be. 0 adversaries remaining. So theatrical.
The ninth and final charge against Leffen is one that also took place during last summer's MeToo movement. Up until now, I've shown you how a MeToo movement presented Leffen with a golden opportunity for resource transfer. Leffen gained about 15,000 followers in a few days, built massive loyalty with those followers, and made plenty of money along the way. But those weren't the only benefits a MeToo movement presented Leffen with. The ability to implicate other people as sexual predators presented Leffen with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for resource drain as well. So far, we've seen Leffen drain 2 of his political adversaries in recent years. Both times, Leffen made it clear that his intention was to end the other person's career in order to secure his footing within the community. This is why when MeToo would end up presenting Leffen with the opportunity to take down the only person left in the community with a larger following than his, he obviously wasn't going to pass it up. Leffen wouldn't just use the MeToo movement to grow his brand, he would also seize control of the community through the elimination of Zero, who had the largest following in Smash prior to being banned. Something I want to be clear about is that this section of the video should be viewed separately from the fact that Zero was deemed guilty. It is simply intended to establish that Leffen was personally invested in Zero's downfall, and that Zero's trial was fraudulently administered. This is obvious based on the fact that Leffen wasn't approaching the MeToo movement with pure intentions, but rather with the dark intention of increasing his market share. At that point, we have to assume that everything Leffen did during the MeToo movement was done with this goal in mind. According to what we know, Jisoo approached Leffen on July 2nd, 2020 for advice about coming forward with her allegations against Zero. This is what it says in Leffen's Twitlonger about the Jisoo and Zero situation, which was posted on the morning of July 3rd. As if this story couldn't get any darker, what Jisoo didn't know is that when
just according to Keikaku, chat,
when she approached Leffen for advice,
he is a mastermind.
Hijack the entire MeToo movement, but would also gladly
he's playing you all.
Zero was the only person left in the Smash community with a larger following than Leffen, and so the situation had practically fallen into Leffen's lap. These are the types of benefits Leffen was bound to receive after duping the entire community into trusting him. The reason Leffen made his tweet longer in the first place was because people didn't initially believe Jisoo's allegations. On July 2nd at 8:10 p.m. EST, Jisoo alleged that Zero had shown her hentai when she was 15, but people didn't believe her at first because she didn't provide any evidence. This led to Leffen stepping in the next morning at 5:01 a.m. EST. Leffen's tweet longer was intended to turn the tide back in Jisoo's favor, but it was riddled with so much manipulative language that I knew Leffen had a vested interest in canceling Zero the moment I read it. I also knew that Zero would end up getting cancelled as soon as I read Leffen's tweet longer, simply due to how these situations always play out whenever Leffen's involved. Leffen's tweet longer begins and ends by clarifying that Leffen would like to remain friends with Zero after this is all said and done, and that he simply wants the best for his friend. These statements are blatantly insincere, especially when you consider where they're placed.
Insincere.
Leffen even clarified I had seen Leffen.
We're gonna jump ahead a little here, because this is...
at all. Leffen even apologizes in the final paragraph by saying, "I'm sorry this has been a lot of words without any clear conclusions." All in all, most of Leffen's tweet longer doesn't actually tell you anything, and reads as though it was written by someone who was on drugs.
Someone who was on drugs. And furthermore, he on crack! And his mama is so fat!
Speaks throughout his tweet longer is called word salad. Word salad is a narcissist way of spouting meaningless sentences that can muddle what they're really saying. In this case, Leffen's word salad caused every single person who read his tweet longer to make a crucial oversight. There's only one part of Leffen's tweet longer that actually matters, and it's a testimony he gives toward the end. Leffen's testimony talks about how he allegedly witnessed Zero sharing hentai with one or two Japanese smashers in a hotel room at Apex 2013. According to Leffen, this made it more likely that Jisoo's testimony was truthful. There's a problem with Leffen's testimony that I want to highlight. At the time of Apex 2013, Zero was 17 years old. This means that Zero was legally a minor, and so if any of the Japanese players were 18 or older, they'd have been guilty of the same crime Zero would later commit against Jisoo. Zero would end up confirming that the Japanese players
This is getting off track. Like it's getting to be more about Zero, and I didn't want to talk too much about fucking Smash weirdos today. I mean, outside of this one weirdo, But yeah, basically Leffen tried to play you all and pretend that he was, I don't even know, man. He's evil. Whatever. He's basically this guy, but you know, the horns are on the Fox Pepe instead.
Hbox 2 years prior. When Leffen posted the video about Hbox that would receive 400,000 views, he assured people that he wanted to keep out of the drama, which obviously wasn't his intention. Leffen also portrayed Hbox as being abusive toward a player named Snowy, when Snowy was nothing more than a stepping stone for Leffen to enact his smear campaign. By half a year later, Leffen would be on the verge of fully pushing Hbox out of the community. Leffen didn't need half a year to pivot toward his true intentions this time around. Just 17 minutes after Leffen posted his tweet longer, he was already tweeting in a way that suggested that Zero was a criminal who ought to be cancelled. This would have been perfectly fine if not for the fact that Leffen had just assured us that he wasn't trying to cancel Zero. There was no emotional consistency among anything Leffen was saying or doing. As the days went on, more information...
And again, you know, it seemed like he started out and he was like, oh, I want what's best for my friend, and now he's like, you know, now he's like kind of throwing him under the bus some more, which, I mean, I guess based on what he did is reasonable. But, you know, I suppose you could make the argument that he, like, whatever, stabs his friends in the back or something, but... I don't know, man. Again, I don't read any of these tweets as like some kind of fucking literally Machiavellian plot to like, you know, convince people of. I don't read any of that into this. I just see a man tweeting his fucking opinions. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Would come out, and Leffen would continue to administer Zero's cancellation. On July 4th, Leffen made a particularly brutal tweet in which he leaked DMs of Zero reaching out to him to talk. Many people raised an issue with this tweet, so I want to shed some insight into why it happened. 8 years ago, when C testified for Evidence.zip, he explained that Leffen is a highly sadistic individual who will decline any invitation to speak with his prospects. Leffen will, in fact, misrepresent these invitations on social media as to vilify the other person. We've already seen Leffen do this to multiple people. He did it to C when he claimed that he defended himself from C in his YouTube video. He did it to me when he claimed that I screamed at him for no reason at Royal Flush.
I mean, why do we just believe this one guy who says that, no, it was totally his fault, I didn't do anything to deserve it, he was being mean to me and he hurt my knee and blah blah blah. Why do we just believe the C guy more than believing Leffen? I mean, I get it. Again, Leffen poo-poo stinky, but anybody could be lying in this situation.
And he did it to Hbox when he claimed that Hbox begged him to be on block. With that information in mind, Zero never had a chance of speaking to Leffen in this situation, but Zero didn't know that. Neither did the people on Twitter who watched Leffen leak these DMs, but many of them were still able to gauge that Leffen was acting maliciously. Several people accused Leffen of never meaning what he said when he called Zero his friend, and being personally invested in Zero's downfall.
Okay, but kind of fuck Zero, though. I don't know.
It seems that you never really liked Zero.
Someone in chat was like, I remember when this video was funny. Yeah, it's kind of just veered into like, fuck you, shut up.
And you were hoping that something like this would happen. Everyone who took this stance was sadly correct.
It was one thing when you were comparing him to an anime villain or whatever, but now you're just like, now you're the anime villain. Stop making the video. Go touch grass and then find a girl who's willing to let you touch her tits. That's your job for today.
Several other people expressed that what Leffen was doing could potentially drive Zero to suicide, especially considering that Zero was known to have struggled with depression. Leffen responded to one of them by saying, "Don't you dare put his mental health on me. Mental health is a serious issue, but being depressed is not an excuse to get away with doing bad things." This tweet is ridiculous when you consider that in the fake apology Leffen gave after Evidence.zip...
Oh my god, he said something in 2013 and he's not consistent with it anymore, guys.
...therapy and looking to better himself. Leffen wanted to make absolutely sure of the fact that Zero was gone for good, no matter what toll his actions took on Zero's mental health. Unsurprisingly, it was later revealed that Zero had entered a suicidal state following the events of last summer. All eyes were on Leffen when this news came out, and so he responded by saying that he wished Zero well. Amazingly, this was all it took for Leffen to take the target off of his back. As someone who's dealt with Leffen firsthand, I need you to know that he would probably prefer if Zero was dead. I say that—
Motherfucker. You tell me how this isn't defamation. You tell me how it's not defamation to literally say of a person, yeah, you know, you probably wish that they're dead. Now, I will remind you, my videos about channeling Eric explicitly read a part in the video, or a part on her website, rather, where she says that Eric's death seems to have helped her to help a bunch of other people. So, you know, when I say that she seems like she just... I'm just saying, you know, there's different degrees of things. There's different reasons why people might say something. This guy has no real reason to suggest that he would rather have Zero dead. I don't know. That's pretty fucked up to say about someone, man.
It's because back when Leffen blackmailed me about my mental health issues, I remember thinking to myself that there are plenty of people who would have killed themselves in that scenario. Leffen even doubled down 3 years later when Metagame aired by bringing up my issues again as a way of discrediting Evidence.zip. The point is, Leffen has no empathy or remorse, and only made his tweet about Zero to protect himself. One last thing I want to show you is that Leffen would have gladly used MeToo to take out Hbox as well. When rumors of Hbox allegations began to spread, Leffen quickly implemented chat commands in preparation for them. He wanted to leverage MeToo as hard as possible by not only taking the helm, but also by taking out both of the people whose social media followings rivaled his.
Again, congratulations, you've identified that this guy is a bitch. What's your point? He's a bitch. He's a little baby bitch, just like everybody else apparently who plays Melee.
All in all, Leffen's actions during the MeToo movement reveal what a snake he really is, and should leave no doubt as to his intentions.
And your mom's a hoe too! And so the list of charges has grown to its maximum capacity. I can't believe Leffen did 9/11.
Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video, or if you skipped here, that's totally fine too, since I'll be recapping a bunch of the information that I've given to you throughout this video, and I'll be explaining to you what all of it means. Unfortunately, once you know what all of this means, it paints a pretty dark picture for the status quo of the Smash community.
Why does it? You still haven't really explained why it's a dark status quo for Smash. You've explained why this guy... Oh god, Scooby Snacks. You've explained why this guy may potentially be like a high level whatever. But I just don't see how that correlates to the entire Smash community being a dystopia. I don't get it, man. I'm too small brain for this shit. I'm sorry.
And it's really important that everybody weighs in on this, because whether you're a top player or a TO, a community leader, or even a casual player, this is going to have an impact on your future within this community. And that's because there is a real argument for basically usurping the person currently running the show within this community based on heinous acts of deception and malicious intent. Just a long, long history of those two things. And now that a lot of that's been laid out clearly for you, I think that angle should make a lot of sense.
Someone in chat says, what is the thing hanging in the top left? We've identified it seems to be a mirror. Like, this part is a mirror. And then this is, like, I guess some keys and, like, keychains, and it looks like a Hawaiian lei hanging off of this fucking thing. And then over here he has, like, some stickers of all of the important things in his life. His weirdo box controller, and that stream that he ran for 2 weeks before he quit because Leffen. Yeah.
So the first thing that I want to start by showing you is a slide of a dystopian society. These are widely regarded dystopian traits.
One thing I'd like to point out, too, as we talk about this dystopian society, if we're talking about Smash Brothers, the Smash Brothers community as a society, then that literally means that that Sakurai is God. Just keep that in mind.
And as you can see, just about everything on this list is currently being imposed on the Smash community. What you're witnessing in front of your very eyes right here in the Smash community is
the natural world is banished and distrusted. Citizens live in a dehumanized state. Yeah, that's right. Someone got blocked by fucking Leffen last week, and that was actually a war crime. Citizens have a fear of the outside world. What does that even mean? What is the outside world in this ridiculous equation? What is that? What is that, the rest of the esports community or some other stupid shit? A figurehead or concept is worshipped by the citizens of the... I don't think Leffen is worshipped. A lot of people think he's an asshole. A lot of people don't like him. Citizens conform to uniform expectations, right. The society is an illusion of a perfect utopian world. Yeah, that's right. The Smash Brothers society. The Smash Brothers community is a perfect utopian world, even an illusion of it. Yeah, I believe that.
Is an attempt to basically seize the throne at the expense of every single other member of this community. The people are being dehumanized, they're being watched, they're being taught how to think, and these are all very totalitarian.
This is a guy who grew up in a... You know, I hate to use the term privilege, but my god, like, imagine... I just, you know, there's 221,000 views on this video. And I can only imagine that one of the people who viewed this video has to have, like, grown up in fucking Yugoslavia or some shit, where, like, they had fucking, I don't know, you know, they grew up in, like, Africa, some place where there's, like, militias pointing guns at people every day. And this guy's sitting here talking about the game with pokey floats being a dystopia. Shut the fuck up.
Qualities that are reviled, just historically reviled. You're not supposed to allow this to happen to your community, but the reality is there is a real attempt being made here to control people in this manner. So let's talk about...
Citizens are perceived to be under constant surveillance by who? The fucking tourney moderators. No, chat member. By Leffen himself. He is the electric eye in the sky. He name searches himself, so if you ever talk bad about Leffen, he's going to come along on Twitter and say words at you, and that means you die for real in real life!
Why, no matter where you are on the social ladder or what your role is within this community, you should be very concerned with the status quo. And I'll start from my perspective as a top player.
Someone in chat says Yugoslavia doesn't even exist anymore. Melee still does. That's right. Someone else says where you have to queue in line to get a potato. Exactly. There are people probably who have watched this video, or maybe they never even have had the chance to watch this video, and they're like experiencing fucking bread lines. There's people in North Korea. Full stop, end of sentence. There are people who live in North Korea, and this motherfucker is out here talking about the Smash dystopia.
So, as a top player, your concern should be what I call the hit list. The reason I know about the hit list is because I was the first one who had the misfortune of being added to it. And that was all the way back in 2011 because I was
South Africa farm murders or Leffen insulted your box? Yeah, I don't know. About the same, really. It's about the same.
Well-respected theory crafter on Smashboards, and Leffen happened to take an issue with that. What he immediately signaled to me was that my good standing in this community was actually going to be put in jeopardy, simply because
is the guy in chat Zero Depressive actually actually supporting this dude's stupid fucking video? Or I thought you were joking. You're just an idiot. Okay.
I had lots of opinions about this game that went against his. He started to make very real attempts to undermine my credibility. And
don't worry, he could never have done a better job of that than you.
That has since evolved into eternal beef. Here we are 10 years later, and he's still behaving maliciously toward
me. What do you think Biggie and Tupac would think of these fucking crackers?
Me in an attempt to...
I guess technically Leffen is like half Korean, but still, I think they make crackers over there.
Get me out of the community whenever he has the opportunity to. Now, over time, I watched the hit list expand. I saw other people join the hit list, and they joined a hit list without knowing that they had joined one.
Almost as if one doesn't exist. Someone in chat says, there are people who live in Ohio. I know, right?
People like Hungrybox and Zero probably didn't even realize that they were a part of a repeating trend. And when you look at who is getting added to this hit list, it actually becomes clear as day what's going on. Because like I said, it all started 10 years ago with an attempt to shut down a well-respected theory crafter who had rhetoric that posed a threat. But then it evolved to people who held the largest market share in the community. If you look at the top 3...
Yeah, never forget that Leffen apparently gave this man PTSD over Smash forum posts. Can we just shine a spotlight on that one again? I don't know how you can... You know, again... It's possible that he's got a good point here, but he's burying it so far under all of this fucking absurd nonsense. Just like fucking slander and just like, he was actually lying when he said that he supports victims of abuse. He's actually a liar and he actually wants to fucking manipulate you. It's like all this fucking bullshit. All this fucking theatrical, like, I got PTSD from forum posts. If Leffen is actually a huge fucking prick like he says, who's ever gonna believe that now? Anytime you bring this up, it's just gonna be, don't make yourself sound like that one crazy guy.
People with the largest...
You are now that one crazy guy, Hacks. Good job.
All time in Smash, it's Zero, Leffen, and Hungrybox. And Leffen has looked to snake the other two out of their careers the moment that he had a window of opportunity to do so. So it's clear as day what's going on. Once you put it all together, what he is doing is he's actually looking to consolidate his power within this community by eliminating the people who pose a threat to his rhetoric or market share. He's actually looking to purge them, which is a completely totalitarian strategy. And what that does is it destabilizes your ability to create a career in this game, because you have to realize that you're always being watched.
No, you don't. Maybe you can be... You know, I hate to use this word, but maybe you can just literally stop being such a fucking beta and just, like, tweet whatever you want and play your stupid fucking baby game. Like, again, no hate to Melee. It's a very good game for what it is, but what it is not this. And, like, maybe you can just, like, do what you need to do and not worry so much about what this random other guy does. Be yourself. Do your own thing. Why are you so focused on this fucking guy? Even if everything you're saying is true, so the fuck what? Be better than him. Be better than that. Why do you need to, like... God, this is so pathetic.
Always being watched, and if you ever theoretically start to pose a threat to rhetoric or market share, you may become subject to an attempt to strike you down, to keep you weak. And something else worth noting is that every time these hits take place, there is massive...
Someone in chat is like, I could easily make a stream of Leffen's videos. Yeah, I keep saying, Leffen also seems like a little bit of a bitch. I have walked away with just a generally worse opinion of Smash players as a whole from this video. But mostly this guy. I don't know, everybody involved in this seems like a little baby drama whore who just wants fucking... To be, like, angry at people on Twitter or whatever. Fucking good. Go outside. Make a fucking friend. What is wrong with you people?
Collateral damage onto the community. For example, if Leffen had gotten his way with me back in 2017, thousands of people would be physically unable to play the game right now because the box wouldn't be legal. Similarly, in 2021, when he overran Hax's nightclub, he displayed the intent to make people from the East Coast have to subscribe to him on Twitch rather than play in a free tournament series that had just been set up for them. And then also in 2021, around the same time, when he decided to intervene with the box's button layout, he was willing to teach hundreds of people how to L-cancel the wrong way just so he could grow the Leffen brand. He actually spread false information throughout the entire community just so he could be the sole beneficiary.
How did he... I fail to see. I'm sure he explained it in ridiculous fucking detail. Minute, stupid detail. But I still fail to see how Leffen having a different opinion about where the R and the Z button should be, or whatever the fuck. Maybe it was L and Z. How that's, like, lying and spreading misinformation. He literally, this is like your friend plays FPSs with the inverted y-axis and you take him to court.
Then I actually ended up having to apologize for that. I was the one who ended up in a bad situation, despite the fact that I was working the entire time to protect my customers. So none of these things make any sense. Everything that I just described is completely backwards, and it extends to the other hits as well. When he conned Hungrybox, for example, he was willing to spread mass hatred throughout the entire community. He was willing to exploit another innocent player in order to enact his smear campaign. He made crowds become hostile and violent, something that has never happened before in this.
I really don't think you can even blame him, like, making the crowds hostile or whatever. I mean, maybe he, like, contributed to it, sure, but he was pretty quick to be against it, and though this guy would like to be like, oh, well, that's just him trying to distance himself so he can be the hero again, I think it might just be him being like, yeah, fucking be grown-ups, don't, like, boo the guy because he won a tournament or whatever, like, fucking... There really needs to be a name for it when somebody is just trying to be a little bit more grown up than they used to be, and someone near them cannot fucking get that that's a possibility, and they just have to assume malevolence instead of just, like, because they're still so immature. I think this guy is still where he was 10 years ago mentally, and Leffen, maybe if only a little bit, has grown up a tiny bit. He's grown up since then. And this guy is like, no, you couldn't possibly have grown up, because I haven't grown up. You've got to be the same, just like me.
Community, and Hungrybox's mother even signed on Twitter to tell you that something has clearly gone wrong here, and no one was listening to her.
Why is his wall just cabinets? That's a good question. Does he store the bodies in there, chat? Obviously just jokes. Not alleging anything.
During the Zero
I already have one lawsuit to deal with.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Zero deserved to be cancelled, but he didn't deserve to be put into a suicidal state, which, undeniably, Leffen had a lot to do with. And then, amazingly, all Leffen has to do is insincerely wish Zero well at the end of all that, to get away scot-free. So he's getting away with
I will give him that at least. I will say that the way that he handled the Zero thing, maybe, I don't know, he could have either just doubled down on fuck the guy, or, you know, I don't know. He seems to have kind of turncoated a bit there, but I think we can all agree that that's kind of a special case of a situation when a guy's been, like, outed as a predator or whatever.
Murder time and time again, and it's having a massively destructive effect on the upper echelon of this community. But the next thing I want to talk about is how it's having a destructive effect on the masses as well, because totalitarianism is not just about consolidating your power over the upper echelon, it's also about controlling the masses effectively. And one of the earliest things I showed you in this video was when ESAM raised the concern that Leffen seems to have established a culture where his word is to be treated as law.
Someone in the chat says Leffen suggested remaking Skyward Sword. Leffen is the reason for the fast travel amiibo.
And that is very much so an accurate statement. But I want to explain how this was done.
Oh, I love chat right now. Leffen helped Andrew Jackson with the Trail of Tears. Leffen doesn't say GG after the game. Leffen L canceled Pro Jared. Oh god, Leffen helped Fidel Castro rise to power. Well, yeah, if you follow this video.
Because there is a method to the madness. There are steps that have been followed.
Leffen was the master from Doctor Who.
By practically every totalitarian throughout history. And ultimately those steps have to do with crowd psychology. So the first way that you know that you're living in a totalitarian state is that the person with the highest follower account in this community does not allow you to view his Twitter account unless you sign
Leffen didn't thank the bus driver. The nerve.
Agreement to agree with everything that he says. This is the strategy that I call pest control, which is where Leffen makes it clear that anyone who does not conform to his beliefs is going to be blocked and basically left out of the party, because when someone with a massively high follower account decides to block everybody who dissents from them,
you know, I played this song earlier, but fuck it.
Their community into those who conform and those who don't. And this creates massive illegitimate pressure to conform, which can then be exploited because it creates the illusion of trustworthiness and correctness. And in this era of social media that we're now living in, I actually advise for this strategy to be forbidden when you consider how dangerous it can potentially be. So the first layer of crowd psychology that you're seeing is that Leffen's followers are basically selectively chosen, which is a massive advantage because normally just because someone follows you doesn't mean that they also agree with everything that you have to say. But in Leffen's case, a much higher percentage of his followers are going to automatically agree because they understand that they actually have to, otherwise they're not allowed to even follow him. So now, on top of that, there are actually two...
Evil equals every villain is Leffen! That's wonderful.
Two more layers of crowd psychology that are pressuring people to conform even
Anybody
further.
else playing Hitman Blood Money after the stream?
Two more traditional layers that you will see in just about any totalitarian society. The ones that I'm referring to are fear and love. So let's go to a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli. This is the Italian
Leffen likes new Star Wars.
Machiavellianism is actually named after. So Machiavelli coined a lot of these strategies for ascending to power politically. And one of his most famous quotes is, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both," which implies that both of these things are great, but fear is the better of the two. So, starting with fear, just as I told you that top players are basically under surveillance, meaning Leffen is keeping track of who poses a threat to his rhetoric or market share, Leffen is doing the same for the masses as well. The masses are also under surveillance, meaning he scans social media to make sure that the masses are acting in line with the way that he wants them to behave. And this creates fear. This is called a menticidal assault. It keeps people on their toes, and even when Leffen's not actively attacking people, it's still in the back of people's minds that whatever they tweet may not be in line with what Leffen would want them to say, because they never know when the next menticidal assault will come. So this has a psychologically damaging effect on people. It destabilizes them. And at that point, the person is destabilized. They don't know what to think. They don't know they don't know what opinions to express. So now they need someone to retrain them. And that person who retrains them is of course going to be Leffen himself. So notice how after he floods the community with all of this fear,
guys, I am sick of all this Leffen wing bullshit on the internet. This political activism needs to stop. Leffen and his drones will be excised from the country. By my word, we will remove him from this establishment, and he will no longer be allowed to spread his lies and his hatred anymore!
the same person is then flooding the community with propaganda as well. So now this propaganda starts to be enforced as law through massive amounts of illegitimate pressure, and that's how Leffen's rhetoric is able to infest the community so effectively. Now, going back to the Machiavelli quote, believe it or not, there's still yet another layer of
Leffen made Bell in Wonderworld!
Crowd psychology that Leffen has working in his favor. So the Machiavelli quote implies that while fear is better than love, it is still very useful to be loved for obvious reasons. If you are loved, then people will gladly support you. So the next step that you know you're living in a totalitarian state is that Leffen is both feared and loved. There is a hero-villain disconnect. People view Leffen as a villain who has reformed and become a hero, which is never actually the case. In the real world, this is not a real thing. What actually happened here is a villain realized that hero status would be beneficial to him, and so he made it his goal to obtain it through the use of a self-engineered hero narrative, meaning he threw other people under the bus in order to heroize himself. Specifically, he threw Hbox and Salem under the bus. But you see,
that music would have been so perfectly timed if it did its little crescendo at the end when he got up. But
the self-engineered hero narrative is so effective that people tend to not even remember that it was self-engineered. They quickly forget, and the person who perpetrated it is able to walk away as a hero. And now they've got that working in their favor, too.
Alright, well, you know, he goes on for another 5 minutes or whatever, and I'm sure it's very exciting, but I am going to call it there on that video. But I'm not gonna be done just yet. I think I wanna continue things a little bit longer. We've been going for a while. We've been going for like almost 4 hours now, but man, I'm having a fun time this stream. So that was the crazy, ridiculous nonsense. That, man, count the times I said ridiculous, because that's the best word to use to describe it. But yeah, I've said it a lot. Nonsensical ranting about this man who does seem to also be a little bit of a childish weirdo himself. The whole Smash community not really coming up smelling like roses right now, as far as I can tell. But you know, mainly it's this guy who seems like a bit obsessed, a little bit obsessed. I would like to now share with you a bizarre person on YouTube who I found. This was so a couple days. The last time I streamed, after I finished the stream, I started watching Joel's Hardcore Friday of Ghosts and Goblins for the NES, which was a like nearly 8-hour video followed by a nearly 4-hour video of him trying to fucking finish this awful fucking hard game. And around like the 6-hour mark or something, Joel starts breaking down, and he starts joking about the kid who was like, "Go take a shit!" And apparently some people don't know about the go take a shit kid, so I guess I'm gonna have to inform you of that. This is leading somewhere else, I promise. But first, let me just. This was like a couple years ago, so some of you might have missed this, but this is one of the best videos on the internet, and let me just.
Demetrius, get off the game, go to the bathroom, and take a shit. Now.
Hey.
Bathroom and shit now. Go to the bathroom and take a shit. Get off.
Hey,
go to the bathroom.
Get out.
Get
out. No.
I can smell you shitting yourself. Get up and go to the bathroom. Now.
No.
Get
No.
up and go to
No.
the bathroom.
Yeah. What the
Go to the bathroom.
Not yet. So this is one of the best videos on the internet, and I'd like to point out one of the really good comments. Oh, I think it's on the other upload of this. One of the really good comments on the original video of it was like, the best part is that he's just like standing. The game he's playing is Mafia 3, and he's just like standing here in the middle of like a warehouse area, and nothing is happening of import. I love how it's HD video, by the way. You can't see that because Sangi, but yeah. He's standing in like this random area. He's not doing anything of importance, but he still refuses to stop shitting himself.
No.
No.
Up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah. What the hell?
Go to the bathroom.
So, you know, I was reminded of this. We're not going to watch the rest, but yeah, it's a classic video of internet history. I was reminded of this, and I wanted to find this guy and take a look at his channel. Sadly, his channel is not very interesting. I did find it, and it's mostly just him. I'm gonna be honest, you can't understand a word he's saying. He seems to have something actually wrong with him, and I hope he gets some assistance with that. That's part of the reason I'm not gonna be necessarily looking at that. But yeah, you know, he's...